We're live?
We're live. We're not public yet, but we're live.
Okay.
Oh, I should probably turn the monetization on while I can. Gotta
Probably
make
wise
some
idea.
money. Make some money. Okay. Save that. We didn't do tags. We don't need to. It's fine.
Yeah, probably should have, actually.
I'll add them later. I'll add them as we have people trickling in.
Wise.
Don't need to worry about that right now. I'm just going to copy paste everything from the last one and worry about it later.
Not a bad option.
I knew I was forgetting something. That's what we were forgetting. Honestly, we can just we can remove German election, and pretty much keep everything else as it is.
Yeah.
Do we have Democrats in here? All right.
Sure.
How are we doing on our bit rate? We're doing all right. So we'll see if the theory about the internet is correct. I really hope we can avoid last time's shit show.
It would be nice. I'm not gonna lie.
Wouldn't it?
Wouldn't it be nice? I'm gonna stop right there.
I don't know what that song is supposed to be. Okay.
Never heard of the wouldn't it be nice if we...
Anyway. What else am I missing? State of the Union is what I need to have in here. So too.
And discussing the State of the Union.
Okay, I think we're good here. Can save. All right. Let me listen to the audio, but I think we're good to go. Bit rate. We're doing all right. So we'll see if the theory about the internet is correct. I really hope we can avoid last time's shit show.
Just doing a test.
Yes, I am. Okay. Let's go public, and let's try not to dilly-dally for too long. I really want to nail this down as much as possible.
You just want to rapidly get through this as quickly as possible so we can go play Helldivers. I know what you're about.
No, I'm about not losing people along the way. That's mostly what I want to make this an efficient ship that we can kind of put on autopilot most of the time from now on. I mean, aside from the actual research that you and I do.
Yeah.
Alright, I'm going public.
My phone ready so I can look at the live chat.
Yeah, same here. You're gonna have to help me out with that a little bit. Okay. Alright. We're gonna go public right now. Okay, we are public. We are live. That only took us 3 minutes. That was pretty quick.
Yeah. We're getting better at it.
We're getting better at it because I'm getting a that's it. That's odd.
There we go. I was about to say I haven't got the notification of us going live yet.
I'm still trying to make the thing pop up on my phone.
Don't forget, you're a standard moderator for the channel. Okay.
Hey, Vsauce Michael here.
Vsauce Michael here.
Of course, he's the first one here. Why wouldn't he be?
We love you, Adas.
Yes,
And I promise not just for your money. You are an excellent human being.
You're a lovely egg. Anyway, we have one person. That's a good start. Good as any.
Yeah.
I should probably turn off my my ringtone before we start.
That would be wise.
That would be really funny in the middle of it. I get a call from the sheriff.
Hey, so we got that police report you want about that stolen car.
I never ended up getting the police report. I don't know if I will. Anyway.
Lord. I wonder if you're going to need it for the insurance.
I'm hoping I won't, because it sounds like a pain in the ass. Anyway.
Yeah. Oh,
right.
Shit. You didn't post an announcement to
I didn't post it yet because I'm trying to get the link. Hang on.
Oh, yeah. I need to do the same as well.
Alright, we got 5 people here. An Eggman, if you will. Yes. A walrus, perhaps.
Yes. Whenever you've got the
I have
link,
it. I have it. Here it is.
Post, please. Thank you.
Alright. 1, and I'm going to post in Project Liberal, and I'm going to wait like a single minute, and then we will get started. I have to credit the title of the stream to Wilson, by the way. I came up with the last one myself, but this one was all him, and I like it a lot. It's weird watching my my live page on YouTube slowly fill out. Like, because I usually unlist them, but these ones I've been leaving up. Alright, we got 7 people. You still can't learn to write the American with a K. Alright. How are we doing? We're doing alright. We're doing good on connection. We're doing good on everything. We don't need ads right now. It's too early for ads.
Listen, I don't need to spell the K. Everybody knows who you are. And if they don't, they soon will.
When does the loud keyboard noises start? They don't. They don't, because since last stream I've been taking the due diligence step of switching out my keyboards right before I stream, so this is what my keyboard sounds like. Loud, you know, too loud, but still much quieter than it was before. I'm learning these things. I'm righting this ship.
I think you might have been referring to me, though. I will say, also,
Probably.
Nostalgia.
Oh,
Oh, look,
yes.
Barn.
I saw it. Another time.
Barn, alright, I'm gonna level with you, Barn, real quick. I'm gonna talk to you in particular. Listen, do not get a job for the sole purpose of being able to support Arken.
Yeah, don't.
Right?
Bad idea.
That's not necessary. You should get
a job for personal fulfillment.
There you go.
Anyway.
But alright. When do we want to get serious? We got 10 people in.
We got 10 people. That's usually my cutoff, so let's do this. It's not usually me making the noises.
Shall I do the intro?
If you wanna, sure. Wait, hang on. Let me switch to our serious shit image, and now we can get started.
Yeah. Oh, we got 14 people now. Now it's time to
lock in.
It's time to lock in. Hey, can you lock the fuck in, please? That's what Arken tells me every time that we're about to go into serious mode. Alright. Man, there's a whole ass discussion going on in my server about 40k nonsense. Guess what? I'm not gonna read. Alright. We good? We're good. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you and welcome to the 4th installment of the Fireside Chats. On time, this time, I think. I mean, if on time is like 10:30 at night CST, 8:30 at night PST, we are your hosts. My name is Wilson. That over there is Arken, and we are about to get right into it. So, we got Old World Wars and New World Tyrants. What has happened in the last week? We've got, to keep it concise, in the last 2 weeks, a bunch of bullshit. Even some shit that happened, like, literally the day after we streamed.
And some things that happened today, and we had to go right before we went live and revise our outline because it changed literally everything.
Literally. Man, we were not in a good way yesterday night. I mean, we felt better after playing Helldivers, but I'm gonna keep it a stack to everybody watching. If y'all have been on top of the post in the Situation Room and on the YouTube community post, the video that we have worked 2 years for is not in a good way at the present moment. It'll come out in one way or the other, but that situation, trying to get around YouTube demonetization, copyright claim shit, it's demoralizing.
That's a problem for later.
More demoralizing for him than me. But, and that's kind of where we were at the beginning of last night, or at the end of last night, right before we played a touch of Helldivers and then went the fuck to sleep. But we think we might be able to end the stream on a bit of a positive note. What do you think?
Yeah, we kind of added that in the last moment.
Literally 30 minutes before, yeah.
30 minutes ago we added this. So I want to... We have decided to stick with the format from last time, because I think it went fairly well, where we're going to go through the news, the broadest strokes in 15 to 20 minutes, rapid fire, and then we're going to get into our main points, which today are it's a bit lopsided, but we're going to start with Ukraine again, because literally the day after we the 2 days after we did the last stream, there was massive Ukraine news, and we're going to start with that. Once we get to that, there is Mahmoud Khalil, who is a Columbia student that was arrested by ICE despite being a permanent resident. And then the back part of the stream is basically just going to be talking about the Democratic Party, its role as an opposition, its failure to do so, and how that can change. We do not have a very long overview this week because over the last 2 weeks, like Wilson said, I've been dealing with copyright on the mainline video that I'm working on, and on top of that, my car got stolen. So I've not really had time to read the news. We kind of came up with this last night, but I think it's a fairly good... It's not very exhaustive, but that's not really the point of it to be exhaustive. It's a good overview of the major bits of news.
We're still over here on our college shit doing the entire assignment the night of and about to ace this fucker.
That's how NPR does it. That's how we can do it. That's what I tell myself to make myself feel better.
Fair enough.
So,
all right,
I'll tackle the first few.
Be my guest. It's all yours. Oh, but real quick, right before we do, hey Bob Simple, hey Arken, greetings, Mr. Munchie, who's new to the live stream. Hello, Safe. Hello, all the new people. We're getting up to 17 views.
7.
I consider this. Yeah, we're back to 7. We're gonna goof off until it gets to 20. Nah, it's yours. The floor is yours, man.
All right. So, first order of business, the sort of background piece of news that has been trudging along in the last, really since he was elected, since he was inaugurated, but especially in the last couple weeks. Tariffs everywhere, tariffs on Canada, tariffs on Mexico, tariffs on China, and I don't know if he's actually implemented them, but Trump has talked about doing tariffs on the European Union, as if we weren't destroying our alliances fast enough. So, Trump is playing a very interesting game, and truthfully, I don't really know what to make of it. I could spin some conspiracy theory about how it's like a way for rich people to make money off the stock market, which we'll get to the stock market. I'm not of a conspiratorial mind. I generally attribute things to incompetence before malice, and Trump is very, very incompetent. So what he's been doing for the last, not the last 2 weeks, it's just, now it's a pattern. It's happened once or twice, but now it's like the 4th or 5th or 6th time that he puts a tariff on Canada. And, it actually happens. And we have tariffs on Canada for, I think, 3 days at the start of this month, at the start of March 2025. And then on, the 2nd or 3rd of March, or maybe the 4th, really quickly, a few days after we finally have tariffs on Canada and Mexico, he reneges and says, no, we're going to delay the tariffs until April 2nd. But the damage was already done. And now he's talking about implementing more tariffs. He's talking about tariffs on steel and aluminum, which is... It's like we're trying to speedrun the destruction of the American economy. But...
Real quick.
Yeah?
I just want to add in a little antidote here. Or while we're talking about import tariffs on steel and aluminum. I was at work, I want to say Friday or Saturday of last week. And I was delivering to this person, had no idea what their job does. Come to find out, they manufacture dust collection machines for steel mills. And their business is booming. And they were tempted to offer me a job if only I met the requirements to do so. We got talking a little bit. And I made something to the effect, or I made some statement to the effect of, do you think this industry will last long enough for me to get a degree in it? And he said, well, we might be for the next 4 years if these tariffs hold. And I said, it takes more than 4 years to make a steel mill. And he said, no, but it will encourage domestic manufacturing. So people still kind of buy into that on the pulse.
Yeah, they buy into it until they can't afford anything. Steel tariffs aren't going to drive up prices for people because who's buying steel in bulk? But,
again,
in terms of the overall economy.
Yeah, it's it's not great. Somebody go get that image of Trump saying that if he wasn't elected, the market would crash, while the
But we'll
fucking
get
Dow
to
Jones
that.
is like
That'll be at the very
300
end.
points.
That'll
Yeah,
be
all
at the
right,
very
you
end.
got this.
So, oh yeah,
I just
affecting
wanted to
car
chirp in
prices,
there
right?
real
That's
quick, though.
yes. So somebody in the chat said, yeah, I listened to NPR a few days ago and they mentioned tariffs directly affecting car prices. Right. That's and what's that number? 3,000 added to new car prices. Right. Well, I didn't think about that actually. Yeah, that's the one big purchase that most Americans are going to make at some point. You know, maybe not most, but many Americans are going to buy a car in the next 4 years. I might be one of them. So you're right. That is a very direct effect on consumer prices. But anyway, so he's putting these tariffs on and then taking them off, and now he's talking about putting them on again and then taking them off again. And I will not offer speculation as to why or what's going on here. I just kind of attribute it to incompetence because the stock market very much noticed these tariffs and it has been in free fall ever since. So the Atlanta Fed, the Atlanta Federal Reserve, previously, before the tariffs, was estimating that we would have a fairly small recession of minus 1.5% in the first financial quarter of 2025. That is a recession. A recession is when we have negative economic growth. They changed their estimate for quarter one after the tariffs. Now it's going to be minus almost 3%, minus 2.8%, which is pretty hefty. It's not.
It's disastrous. I want you to make it very clear. In normal stock market terms, whenever the market is relatively stable, like in a minor bull, right? If somebody predicted that their market was going to shrink by 0.5%, you would have had trust funds taking out shorts like that to try and cash in on the constriction. 2.5% is absurd. It's ridiculous. It doesn't sound like much. Oh, how much could 2% do? But think about it. What's 2.5% of 300 million people who live here? That's how many people's jobs and livelihoods are being directly affected. So,
pretty much.
Think about that.
So like here's the what's it? The statistics I'm trying to find. Real GDP fell by 4.3% in November 2007, which was the start of the previous really big. I'm not counting the COVID recession, but because that was kind of that was a different thing. It was very short. But the Great Recession 2007 through 2009, 4.3%. And did not recover until 2011. So we're not at Great Recession yet, but we're getting there. And this is after, it's not even 2 months, people. 2 months is in 9 days. 2 months of Trump. Oh, they adjusted their estimate. Okay, I want to correct myself. Minus 2.4% as of March 6th is their estimate. Still very bad. So this is Trump's great economy for you. All right, that's tariffs. Next, I want to talk about. I'm actually going to now. All right. Do we want to save Bernie Sanders for later? Actually,
we'll save it for later. Also, Mr. Munchie, I appreciate the enthusiasm, but I think you're a couple. I think you're a couple months late to catch Arken's Jedi Fallen Survivor streams.
You are. So if you can move the Bernie thing down on the outline. All right. We had the State of the Union. We had it a week ago. It was March. I think it was exactly a week ago. I think it was March 4th. We had the longest State of the Union speech ever. It was an hour and 40 minutes. So it's 100 minutes. Really funny to think that back in the 90s, Clinton was considered to be very long-winded and he talked for a very long time, kind of like me. And now here you have Trump rambling for 100 minutes. And I won't waste my time talking about what he said because of course it's just a fire hose of bullshit at maximum pressure. But what I do want to talk about is the Democrats' response, and this is kind of a preview of something we're going to talk about later. The Democrats. I'm going to pull up this picture that I sent Wilson last night when we were preparing for this. The Democrats, their genius form of protest to this was to wear matching pink blazers and hold up little paddles. Show this. And little auction paddles saying stuff like "Save Medicaid," and there's other ones like Musk steals, Musk this, Musk that. Here it is. Here's a very good one. False, false, that's a lie. Musk steals. Save Medicaid, save Medicaid, save Medicaid. And that's all they did. All they did was little auction paddles that looks like I could play pickleball, or not pickleball, I mean ping pong with, and these ridiculous pink blazers. You remember the pink pussy hats from 2017? It's like that, but with no force, no energy, no life. It's like a Onion parody of a Democrat protest against a autocratic Republican administration. This is the kind of thing I would imagine seeing from like Jib Jab in 2004 or The Onion also in 2004. Except for one guy, Representative Al Green of, I think, the 9th District of Texas, which is Houston, southern Houston.
Absolute legend he is.
He's a 77-year-old. I believe he's Hispanic. He is the one and only Democrat who did anything of note during the speech. And I'm saying during the speech because there's a couple others I want to mention after the speech. One thing at a time. He stood up. He shouted at Trump's lies. He was talking about Medicaid, which they are actively in the process of cutting. He raised his cane, which, might I add, very pretty. And this image will go down in the history books. I do believe that quite firmly. Or it should, anyway. An old Texas Democrat standing up amid a crowd of seated so-called opposition party members, defying the lies being spouted by the president from the pulpit, and eventually being, it's not shown in this picture, but eventually being, I wouldn't say dragged out, he didn't resist, but escorted out of the chambers, after which he was censured by the House of Representatives, with 10 Democrats voting in favor of the censure. This is our opposition party. Got anything noteworthy on the thoughts on the election? Well, I think I've kind of made my thoughts on the election abundantly fucking obvious. African-American congressman. Okay, I kind of hard to tell just by looking at him. Yeah.
Yeah, there were some sources saying he was Hispanic as well, so...
He might be, but he's Texas. He's from Texas. They're like, it's like California. They're all mixed. It's great. So that's the State of the Union. I will say the one sort of, I guess, silver lining is, Al Green, the guy who stood up and protested, got a lot of media attention. And that's what we need right now, is we need media attention. What Democrats should have done, in my view, is either one of two things. Either every single one of them, one after the other, should have done what Representative Green did and stood up and make a commotion and make it the longest State of the Union speech, not by 40 minutes or 20 minutes, but by several hours. Or all of them should have done a coordinated silent walkout 20 minutes into the speech. 20 or 30 minutes into the speech. Instead, they sat with their little paddles. That's their protest. And that's the State of the Union. Really, the State of the Union is kind of a joke. The phrase, I mean. This is the state of our union. But rarely does a State of the Union speech actually display the state of our union as poignantly as this one did. Meanwhile, the last of our points here about the news Elon Musk, the shadow president of the United States, who spent 200, I think, 60 or 70 million dollars to get Trump elected, and has been setting policy with no popular mandate or congressional mandate whatsoever, apparently was kicked out of a cabinet meeting sometime in the last week. I don't remember the exact date. And he is feuding with Secretary of State Marco Rubio and a couple of the other cabinet members who are just getting profoundly frustrated with the fact that he keeps interfering in their departments. In other words, the girls are fighting, and it's easy to celebrate. It's funny. But we should also understand, this is something I talk about in my the video that I'm trying to get published right now. Dictators want their subordinates to fight. When we landed at Normandy, at the beaches on D-Day, Rommel, I believe it was Rommel, one of the big famous German generals, was there, and he was stationed to defend it, but he was missing, I think, tanks or some other piece of critical equipment.
Oh boy, I know this story all too well. I got this, boss.
If you can run through it
here's the
quickly.
deal. So it rained, firstly, on the 6th of June. So Rommel, Erwin Rommel, Field Marshal, ran home because his wife's birthday just so happened to be the 6th of June. How is this important? I'll tell you in a minute. So while he's going to get her a pair of Parisian slippers, as the story goes, right? Paratroopers are landing between the beaches and Rouen to start cutting the cables. First day in, Rommel is like, we can sweep them off the beach. I need tanks. I need armor. Now, 2 months prior, because Hitler, Rommel, and the other general in this story by the name of von Rundstedt had a disagreement with each other. Hitler was convinced that the landing was not going to be at Normandy, it was going to be at Calais, right? No, Rommel, on the other hand, was like, no, it's going to be at Normandy. I have this reconnaissance and this is this. So Hitler provided an unbreakable solution. There were 4 tank divisions, so a corps, that were available to Rommel and Rundstedt for the defense of northern France. He broke it up into 3. He gave Rommel 1 division, he gave Rundstedt 1 division, and kept the other 2 divisions in Paris. They were only able to be moved under the express authority of Hitler.
Who slept in?
By the time Hitler was woken up, Rundstedt's division was racing across was racing across the French countryside on foot because Allied bombers had destroyed the railroad. And Hitler gave the order for him to wake up. He immediately sided with Rommel, again, like several hours after he needed them, for the 2 in Paris to fall under Rommel's command and start heading toward the beaches. But they were all on train tracks, and the Allies had bombed the railroad.
This is what happens under dictatorships, under autocracies, and it's deliberate. Now, Trump isn't smart, so he's not doing this because he's an intelligent dictator. He's doing this because he likes drama. But nonetheless, this is how dictators operate. They deliberately make their subordinates feud and fight and disagree with one another and hold off resources and intelligence and this and that. And that incompetence, that failure of command is the point. The point is to make the dictator the final arbiter of any dispute that 2 or more subordinates may have. I don't want to harp on Elon and the cabinet too much because as far as I'm concerned, it's basically celebrity drama. But I do want to point this out whenever you see a story like this, because Elon's not going anywhere. It's a very easy thing to believe, but I don't think he's going anywhere. Not anytime soon anyway. Eventually, probably. But for the moment, I think he's going to stay, at least for a few months. Probably for the rest of the year. Maybe for the rest of the administration, I don't know. One way or another, he is, for now, a permanent fixture of American politics. He's not going anywhere. Anytime you see a story like this, ignore it. What you need to understand is them fighting is the point. They're not supposed to agree. Because if they were all agreeing, if they were all working together the way that they should in a normal system, then they could conceivably plot to remove Trump, either by providing information to Congress for an impeachment, or by invoking the 25th Amendment and removing him through a vote of the cabinet. Trump doesn't want that. He isn't really consciously aware of anything. I don't think he's really making a whole lot of decisions right now, but that is what's happening. Whoever's pulling the strings in the background, whoever you think that is, whether that's Putin or J.D. Vance or Elon Musk or someone else, someone at the Heritage Foundation, whoever you believe that is, it doesn't really matter who it is. Whoever's pulling the strings wants this because it allows Trump to stay in power. And that's... Oh yeah, so Trump was on the White House lawn selling Teslas today, because this is what we've come to. I suppose that's the last little bit of news that we are going to cover before we get to our first major point. Let's talk about Ukraine. Wilson, you want to jump in?
It'd be my pleasure. So, it was like, we streamed on Tuesday. We made mention, oh yeah, Zelensky might cave to some kind of economic colonization of his country in order to keep the arms flowing. And it was that Friday, man,
I think it was
that
Thursday.
we had. No, it was on Friday.
Oh, okay.
It was the Friday after. Whew! It hit the headlines. It shook up everyone. Now, stuff like this that grabs headlines and shit is always going to be a bit of a nothing burger, right? In terms of it's not going to kickstart Europe into suddenly sending, divisions or peacekeeping troops into Ukraine. It might get them to get them to reinforce, double down on their efforts. But we saw what Trump described as good television. We saw Zelensky getting ambushed by the president and vice president.
More so the vice president.
More so the vice president over some of the most mundane, benign shit. It was like, not to mention, Russian state media, RT, Russia Today was in the White House.
Were they? I didn't know that.
They were. That was some of the reporters there. You had Republicans lined up. Yeah, make America great again. Trump is standing up to all the wasteful shit that's going to Ukraine. You had Mike Johnson on Twitter shouting after the result of all this, peace at any cost. Not cost to the American taxpayer. Oh, no. Republicans believe that the American taxpayer, under the disastrous Biden administration, has paid enough for this war. No. But they won't tell you that. They will frame it, my friends, as saying that Zelensky is simply driving off of a cliff and Ukraine has borne the cost of this war for too much. That the Donbass region and Ukraine and Crimea is not a high price to pay for glorious peace. No. We were in a political and international death spiral, my friends, for a week.
We still
are. We still are. But we'll get to that in a minute. Again, some things happened literally before we were about to get on the stream. We had to change some shit, right? But we were in a political death spiral. Like 2 days or 3 days afterwards, the United States started pulling fucking knowledge sharing shit with Ukraine. It was something that France had to pick up, right? This is unsubstantiated, but it was something that Jacob heard somewhere, that Elon was giving access to Starlink to Moscow, and they utilized that information to attacks which killed a total of 4 people, I believe.
I couldn't find any evidence of it in the form of like a reputable news source, including Ukrainian ones, so I will not state it as a fact. But the fact that the fact that that is plausible to have happened in
is insanity.
Our reality is, yeah.
And the thing that topped all of this off, notice how we're not talking about the substance of the thing. That's because that's been blown to death. What we're talking about is the fallout. What we're talking about is everyone's reaction otherwise to it. you had last week when, after signaling to Russia, hey, we're gonna get this war finished for you. We're gonna end this on your terms. Just wait a little bit longer. I'm bringing Ukraine to heel. What does Russia do? Bomb the shit out of Kyiv. You've got the president, you've got White House staffers reporting, even to right-wing news sources, right, that Trump is furious and he's screaming, those bastards are denying me my Nobel Peace Prize. I want my Nobel Peace Prize.
That's what it's all about, isn't it?
It's ego, ladies and gentlemen. It is ego. This is not about saving you money. This is not about advancing democracy. This is not about the protection of sovereign territory. This is not about Europe on the brink. To Trump, it is about Obama got a Nobel Peace Prize. I want one too. To say nothing of the shit that he's pulling in Gaza, but we're not going to get to talk about that this week because the minor news of him sending bulldozing equipment to Israel, right, which ostensibly, and I have reason to suspect this being the case, to help the IDF clear the occupied zones of debris, but who the fuck knows what it could be really used for? I mean, a tractor is a tractor is a tractor. You can do a billion things with it. But again, not the point. Here's the point, right? To say nothing of everything else that Trump has done, to say nothing from the fact that he is enabling a fascist warmongering power to continue to kill people and occupy foreign territory, allied territory, he thinks he's the great peacemaker, the great deal maker. He believed this television show was to show Ukraine that, hey, you're going to have some real tough deals. This is not going to be a free ride. As if Ukraine was getting a free ride to begin with. Right? He's not the great peacemaker, but that's what he thinks he is. He's doing all of this for a vanity project. He might be ideologically tied to it. Who knows? But this is what the reality that we live in. The whims of the king is dictating our national policies.
A mad king at that.
A real George III. Somebody check his toilet bowl, see if there are shades of violet in there. I hope some people got that reference.
I did, unfortunately. This is what you gotta understand about Trump. He has no policy. He has no ideology. This is something. This is not an original thought. This is something I'm stealing from a channel called Adam Something, who is not always right and has said some really dumb things. But when it comes to Ukraine, he's really on point. He divided up the right wing, Republican Party as it exists now. He describes them in three groups: the fascists, the tech bros, and the incompetent. The fascists you can best imagine as being represented by J.D. Vance, who we'll get back to. The incompetent is essentially just Trump and his most fervent bootlickers. And then you have the tech bros, the corporatists, who are represented most accurately by Elon Musk. And J.D. Vance, I struggle to understand him, because back in 2016, he was like a resist lib. He was anti-Trump. He called Trump Hitler, talking about how Trump raped like a bunch of women, which he did. And yet, now, not only is he the vice president, not only is he a Republican, not only is he a Trump bootlicker, he seems genuinely, ideologically, like, I've never believed that Trump actually believes anything that he says. I don't think he believes anything at all. But J.D. Vance, from everything I've seen, seems to have a genuine ideological commitment to neo-fascism, neo-monarchy, whatever the fuck you want to call it. The Dark Enlightenment, that's what they like to call themselves. He seems to have a real commitment to it, and
Dark Enlightenment. I'm gonna shit, bro.
it sounds like something that I would have come up with when I was 14. In fact, I probably did come up with it when I was 14. But
It literally sounds like you're playing D&D and you require a feat called the Dark Enlightenment to start practicing necromancy. Get the fuck out of here, bro. Get back to Wizards of the Coast for that shit. My God.
but the way the meeting was derailed, it wasn't Trump. Trump is a weather vane. I've said this before, I'll say it again. He's a weather vane. He doesn't believe anything. He will go with whatever the prevailing winds in the room are. I want you to think about how strange it is that the vice president is in the room, not to mention the Russia Today reporters, apparently. I want you to think about how strange it is that the vice president is in this joint press conference with two other world leaders. You don't really see it. I'm sure it's not the first time. I'm sure somebody can come up, and find another example where, like, Kamala and Biden are in a meeting with some other world leader or something like that. But I think he wasn't really meant to be there, and I think he made sure he could be there in order to derail the meeting. Because I'm not going to show the video today, but if you go and watch the video of the meeting, it's a very normal diplomatic exchange, well, as diplomatic as Trump can get, and then practically out of nowhere, Vance goes on the offensive. He goes, how long do you plan to be, asking for money from the American people? How many more Ukrainians need to die? Standard boilerplate Russian nonsense. And then that's where the whole thing derailed, because then some guy, I think Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend of all people, actually, went and said, like, what to Zelensky, why don't you ever wear a suit? The man who's leading a country under siege doesn't wear a suit. I think Jon Stewart described it as he's down to just one Brooks brother.
Yeah. There was we can talk about the suit thing in a minute. There was I don't mean to derail your thought, but there's an excellent YouTuber by the name, I think, Real Men Style. His wife is Ukrainian. The next day after that shit, he posts, and it's great breakdown. We'll try to provide a link here in a minute, but please continue.
Yeah. So once Trump realized that the room had changed its opinion, or at least the loudest voice in the room had, which is really all he hears, because that's all he knows how to be himself, then he kind of changed tack and went, okay, we don't like Zelensky now. So he joins in on the offensive. Zelensky is so fucking tired. And there's all these images that you get out of this meeting and all these clips. And I couldn't help watching each and every one of them and thinking all three of them strike such a particular figure, like a caricature of themselves almost. Trump is your crazy, senile old grandfather who is just rambling incoherently. Nobody's really listening to him, but nobody wants to stop him. Vance is this schoolmarm teacher, Oh, his big line, the one that they were, like, reposting on the fucking White House social media and everything, was, have you ever said thank you? He says this to Zelensky, which is hilarious, because he came to Congress
thank you
2 years ago and did exactly that. And then, of course, we remember that Zelensky used to be a comedian. So after that meeting, he went, and for like 24 straight hours on his official Twitter account, he was reposting every single message of support that every single world leader had ever given him with the words, thank you for your support. And this was, like, down to the Faroe fucking Islands. Do you know where the Faroe Islands are? I don't. And I know geography
do.
very well. Well, they're in the North Sea, but where in the North Sea, I don't know. I don't know which country they belong to. I don't know what their fucking legal
Norway.
status is. Sure, whatever. I
Well,
thought it was
actually,
Scotland. Whatever. Like,
technically they're independent, but they're more like an autonomous place of Norway. You know how Greenland is technically like
yes. So,
an
like, okay,
autonomous part of
Faroe
Denmark?
Islands, population
Faroe is that
54,000. Population 54,000, and you went and thanked them. 54,000 is the population of my neighborhood.
54,000 people live in the Faroe Islands? Oh my god.
One city, basically. One small town. So, that's what I want you all to understand about Trump. And it will explain everything that I'm about to talk about. So, Trump, again, he doesn't have a policy. He is a Russian asset, but I don't think he knows it. He is surrounded by Russian propagandists. And he's not really aware of it. They lick his balls, so he's satisfied.
Yeah.
And so he is pretty much bumbling the United States into the end of the transatlantic alliance and a new alliance with Russia. I don't think he's consciously aware of any of it.
He isn't.
I
He
think
just is not.
because remember, he talks tough on Putin a lot, and of course he talks like I piss, but the point is that he wants to signal opposition to Russia, even as he openly respects them. In his mind, that's like, he thinks he's a great negotiator, right? So that's him buttering up, in his mind, buttering up the Russians so that he can negotiate with them. He wants to be a strongman. He wants to be the great American hero. Mm-hmm. And Russian agents, I'm willing to call them that, in the White House and around the White House, are pushing him into this. And clearly Ukraine has some people too, because they keep going back and forth on what he actually wants. So first, he was really against helping Ukraine, and he didn't want to help them. And then, out of the blue, seemingly, he proposes a deal where Ukraine would give up their rare earth metals, whatever that means, in exchange for, I think, $350 billion worth of arms, which is huge. I mean, that's more than all the aid that Europe and the United States have provided so far combined over the last 3 years. So that would be massive. That was the deal that Zelensky came to Washington to finalize. And of course, because of that, that whole shit show of the press conference, the deal blew up and was gone. And then for a solid week, we all basically thought that, okay, NATO is over. We're in full alignment with Russia now. Trump announced, and this piece of news, I feel like wasn't given as much attention as it deserves, probably because it won't end up happening, but I still think it's worth noting. He signaled that the 240,000 Ukrainian refugees who are living in the U.S. legally might get their status revoked, and they would therefore, of course, end up deported. And that's personal to me, because I'm Ukrainian. I'm not a refugee. I was born here. But I know a lot of them. I've had several classmates who are Ukrainian refugees. One of our friends' nanny for their young children is a refugee, as are her children, I believe. Colleague of mine is a refugee. I don't know if that's his legal status, because he lived in Warsaw for a while, but he's from Ukraine, and he left because of the war. I was just at a Ukrainian restaurant not far from where I live, which was started by a Ukrainian refugee. He came here in, I think, 22. He ran a catering business for a while. I think he still has that going on, I'm not sure. But in, I believe, early last year, he opened a restaurant, an actual restaurant with a menu and everything, at a permanent location and not just coming and picking things up from his house. So he's a great cook, and he makes these wonderful Ukrainian meals, and like I mentioned, I got my fucking car stolen. And after we got it home, we went with my girlfriend to that restaurant at her request, and it was this wonderful Ukrainian comfort food. And like, I know all these people, and they all know me, and I know they know me because it's a very small business. It's run by 4 people. The guy who was in today, he speaks Ukrainian, Russian, and English. To my girlfriend, he knew to speak English, and to me, he knew to speak Russian. So clearly, he remembers us. These are the people who are now being threatened to be deported. Why am I talking about this one restaurant for like 2 straight minutes? My day. What am I talking about my day for? Because Trump's ego, we can laugh at it. We can say, oh, he doesn't believe in anything, which he doesn't. But it's a wrecking ball, right? To use Elon Musk's very pointed analogy, it's a chainsaw. Only when a lumberjack wields a chainsaw, he is doing so in a measured and precise manner. He is cutting down this or that tree at this or that height using this or that method, and taking precautions to ensure both his own safety, the safety of those around him, and, if he's really good at what he does, the safety of the other trees in the area. Trump, and Elon, to a lesser extent, are wielding a chainsaw while blindfolded with one arm tied behind their back, while also on ketamine. So we can laugh at it. We should laugh at it because some levity is important in moments like these. But we also have to remember, it doesn't look like that revoking the status for the Ukrainian refugees thing, it doesn't look like it's going to end up happening. But it very well could. And it could at any moment. And we just have to live like this until Trump is out of office. And his whole movement. Though, I mean, honestly, his whole movement would be even worse. If J.D. Vance gets in office, we're even more fucked than we are now. Trump is incompetent. He wields this chainsaw with reckless abandon, but that also means he can't really target any particular group with a lot of focus. J.D. Vance could. We're not talking about J.D. Vance, we're talking about Trump. It's all basically just hearsay and rumors. It didn't end up happening. So nothing happened. So we're fine. For now. But people I know personally, I don't really have a lot of Mexican friends, and those I do are here legally as far as I know, but I do have a lot of Ukrainian friends, and a lot of them are refugees. I just met another, actually, like 2 weeks ago for my dad's birthday. She was helping us do catering, and she's from Kharkiv. Those are the people that this Mad King is threatening to uproot their lives again. It's not like they came here voluntarily, they had to. They were fleeing a war. And they had to uproot their whole lives in Ukraine. They came here seeking freedom and opportunity and safety and the protection of their rights that is no longer guaranteed in Eastern Europe, as Russia advances more and more. And now we have Trump not only destroying America's foreign policy reputation, but also destroying our reputation as the city on the hill, which we never really were, but we've always aspired to be that. We have always aspired to be the place where immigrants, like my parents, like most people that I know, can come and build a life knowing and being comfortable in the knowledge that their rights will be protected, they will not be persecuted by the state, they will not be hounded by informants and security officers, or ICE agents in this case. We'll get to that in just a second. What Trump is doing in the long term, some people will be deported, some people will be arrested, some people will be killed, probably. Alliances will be broken, trade deals will be made and unmade. None of it's permanent, none of it matters. What is permanent, and what does matter, is what this signals to the world about the United States. The shining city on a hill is now the gates of hell. You can come here at your own peril. That was always kind of true, but we've never had, I think, a president, the chief administrator of this country, who has been this openly hostile to the principles that this nation is built on. Think of any bad president. So, like, Andrew Jackson, Andrew Johnson, Woodrow Wilson, Nixon, either Bush. Think of any of those or any other president that you think is terrible. They all did really bad things, but all of them, if you go and look around, you will see they really do believe in the principles this country is built on. Even Andrew Johnson, who is a massive piece of shit, and responsible for a lot of Jim Crow that existed for 100 years after the Civil War, even he was basically a supporter of the idea of liberty, democracy, pursuit of happiness. Of course, he only wanted it for white Southerners, but he still believed in that idea on a very basic level. Trump doesn't, because again, he doesn't believe in anything. The only thing he believes in is himself. We've heard this from Republicans for decades, and Ross Perot back in the day. He might have been the first one to say this really publicly, that we need to run the United States like a business for efficiency. The point of a government is not efficiency. The point of a government is to protect our rights and ensure our safety, in that order. We are a company now, and we will be the 7th company that Donald Trump bankrupts. I've been ranting for like 15 minutes uninterrupted, so I'll let Wilson step in and take whichever one you want to take next, but...
Yeah. Like, where's there even to begin?
You can begin with this right here.
Oh yeah, so...
Take that.
All of this happens, right? All of this happens. And 30 minutes before this stream starts, what's the United States doing now? What's Ukraine doing now?
We're currently... Oh, you want to...
Wait for it.
I think you actually asked me a question.
No. Because you see, Bane of Banes said something. And it's really odd you bring up the Saudis. Because that's where the Ukrainians and the Americans are right now. Negotiating in Saudi Arabia as if nothing happened. Like, it's back to normal, everyone. Ignore this giant blow-up. Ignore this ego-fueled rant. Ignore this destruction of Western society that we've been contemplating for the past 2 weeks. Nope. Business as usual. Business as usual, everyone. You've got people who are starting to pivot to go... You've even got right-wing people who are starting to pivot and go, wow, I guess the United States is just gonna carve up Russia, or carve up Europe with Russia into spheres of influence, and it's going to be down to the European Union, the last bastion of American democracy, or Western-style democracy, and the idea of a free market, and all these other non-tyrannical good things, right? I don't know if this is an attempt for the right to keep us on our toes, or if they have succumbed to millennial-style 15-minute attention spans. Because there's no coherency, folks. Let me tell you something. Let me rant about something that we don't have on the list here, but I feel like is very important, right? I hear a lot. I hear the word on the street is that conservatives love a good free market. They're business focused. They love it when they make billions of dollars. They're here to make a deal with you. But there is nothing more destructive to business, to corporate interest, than instability. And there is nothing more unstable than, we talked about it previously, we're going to do tariffs. No, actually we're not. No, actually we are. No, actually we're not. No, actually we are. We are going to stop supporting Ukraine. Actually, that's dumb. We're going to support Ukraine. Actually, we're not. Actually, we are. Actually, we're not. As if we have some kind of mental disorder. As if we all have BPD and can't make up our mind. That we feel
for that matter.
so strongly. Right? Like, yeah, like we're bipolar. Right?
Or borderline, or both.
Who knows anymore? There's no sense to any of this. There's no... If the plan is Gen Z is all that matters, so we're going to cater to their attention spans by giving them something for them to hyperfixate on every week before the media storm moves on. Cool. Congratulations. I guess it worked. Because it's only going to work for so long, and then people are going to want some fucking stability. And then interstage left, the Democrats, hopefully. Put a pin in that. We'll get back to that. But yeah, somebody in chat said, and Trump said Biden had memory issues. I don't even know if this is a Trump memory issue.
He has a memory issue, but that's not.
That's not relevant to this point that's going on here.
That's not what it is.
What is happening? It's ego. It's hurt feelings. It's the Mad King telling his subordinates, I want chicken for dinner. Why did you serve me chicken? 15 minutes before dinner, I wanted sausages. How dare you do this?
Have you ever like gone and gotten ice cream? I had this the other day. You ever go and get ice cream and you order one thing and then halfway while they're making it, you're thinking, shit, I wish I got the other thing. But you don't say it, do you? Because you feel bad for the Cold Stone employee, and also you've already paid for it, so fuck you. But
buyer's remorse is what that's called. Buyer's remorse.
Well, in Trump's case, it's not buyer's remorse so much as... No, it's not an indecision. It's all the decisions...
No, that's what it's normally called. It's normally called buyer's remorse. Yeah. Trump, however, doesn't give a shit. He's got buyer's entitlement. I don't want this salt caramel delight. Give me that cookies and cream right now. Sure, but you paid for that. I don't care. You're going to give me that one right now.
Or else, or I want to talk to your manager.
And then when the poor Baskin-Robbins employee gives him the fucking one, he will turn around to his friends and say, see, aren't I a great negotiator? And then they'll suck his balls. There's no strategy to this. There is no art of the deal. There is no this or that. It entirely comes down to ego, accolades. It has nothing to do with ideology or realpolitik. It has everything to do with billionaire entitlement, of ego, and of perceived legacy. And for the Republicans who put him up there, it's a matter of who cares what the Mad King says, so long as you have a pulse, we'll keep him up there. And I don't care what destructive shit he does. We will follow our dear leader because it means we get to stay in power.
Remember, one of the big selling points for Trump when he first ran in 2016 was he's a great businessman. It's, again, running our country like a corporation idea. He's a great businessman. He'll get us out of our debt problems. He'll do this, he'll do that. Art of the deal. He's a great businessman. That was one of his big selling points, almost as much as the nationalism and the xenophobia and purely just the entertainment factor. He's a great businessman. That's what you got to hear all the fucking time out of Trump supporters. You still get to hear out of him, even though 6 bankruptcies. Great businessman. But there never was an art of the deal. The art of the deal is the exact same thing that he would have used when he was a child, begging his mommy for a lolly. It's the same art of the deal that it always was. I'm standing over here on my shit and gesturing exactly like Trump. It's a great time. The The art of the deal has always really just been complain and shout and whine until everyone else gives in because, oh my god, how else do we get him to shut up? It's always been just about appeasing Trump and blowing him. In some cases, literally.
Nice.
Looking at you, Stormy Daniels. I was uncalled for.
Nope. It's fine. It's fine. Proceed.
I've proceeded. That's the art of the deal for you, folks.
This is apparently the art of the deal. Not rational-based decision-making, not Bismarck-style, making outrageous demands so that what you actually want seems like the moderate and compromisable position. It's throw your fucking hands up in the air, shout and complain like an absolute toddler because you've got the nuclear football, and if people don't fall in line with you immediately, then they're an enemy to democracy. But not real democracy, no. Super democracy, Trump democracy, the type of democracy that'll continue to gild his nutsack by literally introducing a bill to Congress to replace Franklin on the $100 bill with Trump's fair visage. You hear about that, by the way? I know we didn't bring it up, but did you hear about that?
About what?
What I just said?
Don't think so.
It's called the Golden Age Act. Look at this bullshit.
I've not seen this. Sorry, what?
Look at this. Look at this.
I'll put it up on screen if it's,
This is the type of democracy that Donald Trump believes
Representative
is
Gill
true
introduces
democracy.
Troy Nels. He's from, Rep. Gill from Texas. Of course, he's from fucking Texas. Representative Gill introduces Golden Age Act honoring... Oh, God, this. I did see this, only I thought it was a joke. Honoring President Trump on $100 bill. Congressman Brandon Gill today introduced his third bill of the 119th Congress. The Golden Age Act of 2025 would require all $100 bills feature a picture of Donald J. Trump on the front of the note. President Trump... I actually want to read this. President Trump could be enjoying his golden years golfing and spending time with his family. Instead, he took a bullet for this country and is now... is now working overtime to secure our border, fix our uneven trade relationship with the rest of the world, make America energy independent again. We are already energy independent, by the way. And put America first by ending useless foreign aid, said Congressman Gill. There has been no one who has done more to bring America into the golden age than President Trump. Featuring him on the $100 bill is a small way to honor all he will accomplish these next 4 years. And, so it would require all $100 bills, which I believe are, I don't have a whole lot of hundreds. That's Benjamin Franklin, right? Currently?
It is.
Yeah. This would, require all $100 bills after the 31st of December on 2028 to feature a picture of Trump on the front face of the note. Yeah, this is worth harping on, not for too long, but for just a little bit.
Like, this was the point. I don't know if you fully caught it. You might have been a little bit busy or preparing your next point. This is the type of democracy that Donald Trump wants to preserve. And that you are an enemy of democracy, specifically this type, if you do anything to oppose him. You're an enemy of the state. You're an enemy of democracy. You're an enemy of the American people. This shit is heinous. This shit is absurd.
Okay, and I'm gonna just flash an image on the screen, which most of you will recognize, which is a wordless summation of everything we've been talking about. Every single elected Republican, bar none, is currently this woman. And all of the media figures and Elon Musk and the people at fucking Doge, all of them are just this woman. I mean,
Dilida is doing everything to make sky blue.
I mean,
Dilida,
President Trump, seriously, I want you to say any like authoritarian country accent, I guess Russian in my case, President Trump could be enjoying golden years golfing, spending time with family. Instead, he take bullet for country and now work overtime for American people to make America great again. Like, this sounds like something that I would read on, like, Russia Today or TASS or RIA Novosti or something like this. Or, and this is, I just started reading her Wikipedia page, and I thought this was really worth mentioning because it sounds, if you change the names, it sounds like something that would be said by one of these fucking congressmen. So apparently Kim Jong-un gave this broadcaster a mansion, and she said her new home is, quote, like a hotel, adding her and her family stayed up all night in tears of deep gratitude for the party's benevolence. How far off is that from what we have now?
That's
Working
the real
overtime
media,
for the
everyone.
American people.
Oh, yeah.
I am kind of glad you brought that up,
Bruh.
actually. I think that was worth mentioning.
Kind of worth it, isn't it?
Before we move on to our next major point, I want to answer something I saw in chat that I thought was interesting. Arken, I've been
Got
away
few
for a
things in
while.
chat.
I was just wondering if you still consider yourself a conservative. The need for anti-Trump voices from the right is very important right now. I don't disagree with your claim at the end there, only I don't remember ever calling myself a conservative, as I am very much not. I am content coordinator for a organization called Project Liberal. I am not a conservative. I'm personally conservative in the way that I live my life. I'm a straight white guy who does normal straight white guy things, but politically, I am, and have always been, and will always be, I hope, a liberal. I am not anti-conservative exactly, but I do think conservatism as an ideology is stagnative by its nature, by the very definition of the word conservative, and I think that stagnation is ultimately what got us Donald Trump. The final form of conservatism, in my view, is always this. Conservatism as a political tendency is great in a democracy. Conservatism as an ideology is cancerous. That's my take on conservatism. Though I do agree that we need, moderate right-wing
Voices
people.
from the right.
Liz Cheney, as much as I don't like her, normally, we do need people like her in the current fight because we need everybody on board. And that's something we're going to get to in just a little bit. Let's talk about Mahmoud Khalil. Let's talk about this shit. So
I'm gonna give
Okay.
Arken a little bit of a preface here.
Alright.
This is gonna be mostly him talking here, but I want something to be made very clear here that he would make clear himself, right? But I don't need him echoing his own point for the umpteenth time, so I'm gonna say it to you. For those of you who don't know, by ethnicity, Arken is a Ukrainian American, though he speaks more Russian than he does Ukrainian.
I don't speak any Ukrainian.
In the Soviet Union. Yeah.
I can
That was it.
interpret
You can read it,
Ukrainian.
and that's about it. But that's just the nature of having a family, having parents who grew up in the Soviet Union. Despite the fact it was your dad who was Ukrainian.
My dad's from Ukraine, my mom's from St. Petersburg.
Right, and were they both Jewish?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought so. Anyway, but they're both Jewish, and that's the point that we're going to get into right now. So it's pretty obvious, I would say, that Arken is Jewish, not practicing, but culturally. He identifies very strongly. I think he has described himself as a Zionist at one point.
I
Am wrong
have.
at that?
I stand by it.
So he believes very strongly in the fact that Jews should have a state.
I see.
Though I think we both agree in the fact that Netanyahu needs to be hung from a lamppost, but that's neither here nor there.
Upside down.
Yeah,
Like
but that's neither here nor there. But here's the point that I want to drive home for everybody listening, right? All 36 of you. Hi, by the way. Arken is Jewish. In general, he would support Israel, though the situations happening firstly in the West Bank and then most recently in Gaza has given him time to reflect and pause. And what he is about to do, for those of you who don't know, is to come out swinging in support for a gentleman of Syrian birth, Algerian nationalism, or national citizenship, or Syrian birth, Algerian citizenship, who has been arrested, then detained by ICE for no other reason than he is a Palestinian provocateur. He is a legal permanent resident of the United States.
He's married to an American citizen.
Married to an American citizen. And the thing that's going to disturb Arken the most, that he's going to get to talk about in great detail, is exactly how many Jewish American citizens either don't care or are completely fine with this. Jake, you have the floor.
I have the floor, I have the chair, I got everything. I got a whole room to myself. Anyway, let's talk about Mahmoud Khalil. I think that's how I pronounce that name. I'm sorry if I'm butchering it. So he is a Columbia University, I think, graduate student, but a student at any rate. Like Wilson said, he's a permanent resident. He's married to an American citizen who I believe is 8 months pregnant, by the way. He was a leader of a lot of the anti-Israel protests that swept the nation in spring of 2024. He is pretty openly a Hamas supporter, as far as I know. I haven't really read about him personally a lot, but from what I know, from what I've been told and what people in my circle are saying, he is a fairly open Hamas supporter. He is not in any sense like a peace activist. He's more just a Israel should be destroyed and is terrible activist. But he's an American, not citizen, he's an American permanent resident with a green card. He's married to an American citizen. He is exercising his right to free speech. Now, I think he's misusing that right, but the Constitution does not say that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the exercise of speech or assembly and this and that. That it doesn't say that Congress won't do that unless the speech or religion is really bad. What it says, I will actually go and read it. I have read it on these streams before. I will do it again because I genuinely think they're going to try and change the Constitution at some point. Let me actually go and read it, because I don't remember it from memory. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech of the press or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Notice, nowhere in that text does it say, shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech so long as we like this speech. Rights are something you are guaranteed by the Constitution. I don't believe in God. I also don't believe in natural rights. Rights are something we invented, and they live or die based on our belief in them. I don't believe in natural rights. But I do believe in the concept of rights as something that is unabridgable. There is nothing you can say that is prohibited by the First Amendment. I am a free speech absolutist. I've always been a free speech absolutist, and I will always be a free speech absolutist. This guy's a piece of shit. Okay, Mahmoud Khalil is an asshole. Or at least holds asshole views. And if I met him personally, I'd probably sock him in the face. But he is a resident, a legal, permanent resident of this country. He is married to an American citizen. He is exercising his constitutional right to speak. The fact that he is speaking utter nonsense is irrelevant. I have said this about Nazis before, and I would do it again. If he was waving a Nazi flag, I would still be against this. I have the same views on free speech that the ACLU did back when the ACLU was worth a shit. Doesn't matter how reprehensible the views are. To be not only restricted from speaking, but actually arrested, in this case by immigration enforcement, for wrongthink, essentially, and wrong speak. It is a chilling precursor of what is to come. Now I want to address the Jewish community. I'm Jewish. I'm not practicing, like Wilson said, but I'm Jewish. My mother's Jewish. My father's Jewish. All of my grandparents are Jewish. All of my great-grandparents, bar one, are Jewish. I have been a Jew for a very long time. I was first galvanized to create this channel and start this project when a local synagogue in our, not quite my neighborhood, but a few miles away, was shot up and one woman was killed. My best friend was going to be there that day, but luckily she was sick and skipped. That was what first galvanized me to make this channel. So my Jewish identity, if you want to call it that, is a big, important aspect of my life, and it's a big, important aspect of this channel. Always has been, always will be. This is interesting, because Jews are pretty much the only group that voted more for Democrats in 2024 than they did in 2020. And it was like his Saddam Hussein margins. It was like 85% for Kamala, including me. And I think everyone in my family. And most people that I know. Despite that, it seems like a lot of Jewish people are very okay striking kind of a bargain with Trump in the belief that he will protect us. Because what he's doing is he announced this months ago, that he would be deporting pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas protesters who, like, are anti-Semitic. And I'm sure he is anti-Semitic. I'm sure Mahmoud Khalil does not like Jews. I don't know anything in particular that he said. Anybody that is that vigorous in support of Palestine and that vigorous in opposition of Israel's existence is probably an anti-Semite. But I don't care. Because guess who's next? We are. Because we are so liberal, because we are a minority, because there are so many people in Trump's circle who are anti-Semites, and because, like we've talked about, he is a weather vane whose opinions can change by the minute, let alone the day, we're next. Not literally, probably. Probably the Mexicans are next, or, I don't know, the gays or something. But we're on the chopping block. I don't know where exactly in the queue we are, but we're there. There's an account I follow on Twitter. Her name's Brianna Wu. She was a very prominent progressive in the late 2010s, and then after the war in Gaza started, she became this very out and proud Israel supporter, standing against a lot of the crazy leftists who are practically calling for the extermination of the Jewish people. She's transgender, and she stands against a lot of sort of the extremism, like in the trans rights movement, and she's trying to bring it back to sort of a serious professional movement. And I respect a lot of the work she's done, but I opened Twitter the other day, and I see her saying, like, yeah, whatever, I don't care, he was arrested, he's an asshole, he's a horrible person, we don't need people like that in our country. And I actually replied to that. I very rarely reply to tweets directly, but I did. I'm like, Brianna, girl, you're next, and so am I. I saw the Columbia Jewish, like, Students Union or whatever, something like that, posting something similar, like, oh, who cares? He's evil, he's bad, he's an anti-Semite, we don't need people like that on our campus, we're not going to stand up to defend him. My question to you is, how long do you think you have, Columbia Jewish Student Union, full of queers and progressives? How long do you think you have before you are on the next train? Or the next flight, whatever. How long do you think it's going to be until you're deported to Israel or deported to a fucking concentration camp somewhere in Guantanamo Bay or in the middle of Nebraska where nobody will ever find you? How long do you think you have? Because I don't think it's very long. Trump has been in office for less than 2 months. We are already at the point where he's building a concentration camp in Guantanamo Bay, and now he has arrested his first political prisoner. It's a test case. If he is allowed to be deported or indefinitely detained, then he will do it again. The Supreme Court has given him leave to do so. They said very clearly in a ruling last year that the president essentially has immunity to do whatever the hell he wants. The ruling was very broad and hasn't really been tested yet, but I don't really trust this court, and neither should you. Chances are we're next. We liberals, we Jews, well, not we in my case, but queers, black people, Hispanics, Asians, journalists, entertainers, comedians, we're all next. I think I pointed this out last time that Michael Knowles, one of the Daily Wire assholes, I saw a clip that they posted where Michael Knowles is basically saying, hey, can we find a way to deport John Oliver? John Oliver being a British-born, now naturalized American citizen, a left-wing comedian who went on one of the other, I think, Seth Meyers, I think? One of the other late-night hosts. And he basically said, this is a suboptimal time for humanity, but I'm planning to stick it out. I'm not going back to Britain. I believe in this country. I want to stay in this country. And here you have Michael Knowles, this like conservative shitlicker, saying, can we find a way to deport him? It's not jokes. They don't do jokes. They don't know how to do humor. First, they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. I believe that's how that poem starts. Say the trade unionists are socialists. First, they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. And everyone knows that line, but I don't know how many people remember the end of that poem, so I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'm going to skip to the end. First, they came to the socialists. I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then trade unionists, then Jews. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. Jews, my fellow Yehudis, were next. If you are laboring under the delusion that Trump is trying to protect us, that Trump is some great ally of the Jewish people because he, moved the embassy in Israel to Jerusalem, a purely symbolic move that means absolutely nothing, because he arrested one asshole who doesn't like Jews? You really think his unifying principle is that he is vehemently opposed to anti-Semitism? Like, he's fine with being racist toward black people. He's fine with being racist toward Asians. He's fine with being racist toward Hispanics. He's fine with being homophobic and transphobic and sexist and classist. But he draws the line at anti-Semitism. I mean, you might as well just put a clown nose on if you really believe that. Trump is testing the waters. He is wielding ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, as a state police force, a gendarmerie, which we have never had in this country because of how it can be wielded by autocrats to enforce authoritarian aims. He will use them to deport or indefinitely detain anyone he doesn't like. And if we let him, if we show him that we are okay with it, we, in this case meaning not only Jews, but American citizens as a whole, and Israel supporters as a whole, because despite how prominent the protests were last year, most Americans do still support Israel. I think it's like 60 or 70%. All of us who support Israel, he doesn't care about Israel. He doesn't care about Jews. He doesn't care about anti-Semitism. He wants power. And he really hates people who criticize him. So if you've ever said anything mean about Trump publicly, you're on the chopping block. Somewhere. Maybe. You don't... It's very much like the surveillance state described in 1984. You don't know that you're being watched at every single given time, but you could be being watched at any given time. Same thing here. You don't know that you're on his hit list, but you know you could be. That Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents could break into your home tomorrow, arrest you, take you to God knows where, or kill you, or deport you, or torture you, and no one will do anything. Because when it mattered, you stood by and cheered because you can't see any further forward than the next day or so. Look further ahead. Take off the blinders. Get a fucking prescription for your nearsightedness. I got one. And now I can drive without crashing into my fellow drivers. Understand that for the next 4 years minimum, unless by some miracle he's impeached and removed, or dies, for the next 4 or so years, we are all on the chopping block. Anybody who does not worship this guy is a potential target. And the reason I'm doing this little personalized address to my fellow Jews is because I know a lot of my audience is Jewish. Especially I know a lot of the audience of these streams is Jewish. I see y'all out there. I know y'all are watching this. I can even name names, I won't, but I know people who are watching this. And too many of you are too complacent. If you don't see that you're next, if you have ever, I don't know, done drugs, if you've ever had sex before marriage, if you have a gay or lesbian son or daughter, or a trans friend, or cousin, or child, all of you are next. All of you are potential targets. Trump is against anti-Semitism the same way that he is for peace in Ukraine. He's for peace in Ukraine until Russia strikes a hospital, and then it's, well, they had to. Oh well, Ukraine provoked them. Fuck them kids. Fuck them nurses. Fuck them mothers. They provoked Russia's missiles. His mentality is very self-serving and very, what's the word? It's mercurial. That's the word I'm looking for. Mercurial. He changes his opinion based on whatever helps him most at any given moment. If it doesn't serve him, he doesn't need it. He doesn't need us, y'all. He does not need Jews. We are not one of his big voting blocks. I mean, not that he cares about his own voters either, but we're not even one of his big voting blocks. We're not really big Trump supporters as a group. And even if we are, he is so inundated in Russian and neo-Nazi propaganda that he could just wake up tomorrow and decide, okay, Auschwitz wasn't good enough, let's build a bigger one. And that's a joke for now. But not forever. There is a concentration camp, as we speak, being constructed at Guantanamo Bay, meant to house 30,000 illegal immigrants. Supposedly until they are resettled to a different country. But, of course, not all of them will be resettled to another country. Some of them will be stuck there. And they will die there. And we're next. So, you don't need to like Mahmoud Khalil, or anybody else that Trump is going to arrest in the coming weeks and months. You don't need to agree with them. You don't need to care about them. You can personally hate them. I personally don't like this guy. Like I said, if I met him, I'd probably sock him in the face. Seems like a massive asshole. But he's an American asshole. Damn it. And he has American rights. And if we don't stand up for his American rights, then our American rights are going kaput very soon. Again, it's not even been 2 months since Trump was inaugurated. This is something I want to talk about a little bit more after we complete his 100 days, first 100 days in office. But we live here now. It's a phrase I've used before, and it's a phrase I'm going to keep using. We live in this crazy, topsy-turvy world now, where up is down, down is up, true is false, ignorance is bliss, freedom is slavery, war is peace, peace is war. There is no respite for us. Nobody can lick his balls well enough to satisfy him. The fact that he's on his third wife should explain that much. This is Trump's first, for now, political prisoner. There will be others. Now, his deportation, he's being held, I believe, in somewhere in LA, Los Angeles. His deportation was blocked by a federal judge for now. Stay of execution. But how permanent that is remains to be seen. Oh, wait. LA as in Louisiana, not Los Angeles, sorry. I misspoke. Jena, or Jena, I don't know how to pronounce that, Louisiana, according to ICE records. An American citizen was taken from Columbia, which I believe is in New York, and is being held in buttfuck nowhere, Louisiana, because he had a wrong opinion. That's worth protesting. We don't need to like him. We don't need to agree with him. But we do need to stand up for him because he's all of us. One day. Yeah, these morons in their little Yasser Arafat cosplay with their stupid flag and their stupid signs are annoying, and I hate them too. And they hate us. And they'd probably be celebrating if it was happening to us. Of course they wouldn't stand up for us, but that doesn't matter. I don't believe in when they go low, we go high, per se, but I do believe in principles, like liberty and democracy and due process, and basic human rights. They would absolutely not stand up for our rights. I know that. You know that. They're assholes. They suck. And it's really hard to care about them. So don't care about them. They don't matter. Care about yourselves. Worry about yourselves. Focus on yourselves. Because yourselves are next. I will end on that, and we're going to go to our next point. But this is
the next point, ladies and gentlemen.
A monologue that I wanted to have. It feels very important, and if the story develops more, I'm going to follow it. Unfortunately, chances are that by the next one, which is scheduled, I suppose, for the 25th of March, I think? Yeah. If we manage to do it again in 2 weeks, we'll certainly give our best. If there's more news, chances are there will be somebody else illegally detained at that point, and I will keep talking about it because Jews are one of the most politically active groups in American society, and we have been for a century. We have been the biggest allies of women's rights and gay rights and black civil rights and Hispanic civil rights and Asian civil rights, trans civil rights. We have always stood up for them. They've not always stood up for us. But we got to stand up for ourselves. Thank you for your time. I yield my time to the honorable gentleman from Arkansas. Your turn.
Indeed. This is funny to me. But yeah, it's taking the wind out of my sails over here, man, because it's depressing when you have to point out a portion of your own community, right? Because
hang on a second.
Whether you like it or not, humans are tribal creatures by nature.
Can you hold that thought? I need to quickly address a technical issue. Okay, well, we got this far with no technical issues. It took an hour and 39 minutes, so I do appreciate that.
We are. Oh, there he goes.
Yeah, there's the technical issue. It wouldn't be an Arken stream with that one. Yep. I don't know what's causing it. If the stream crashes, we will... I mean, that wasn't the worst ending point in the world. It would be an only 2-hour stream. We could continue at another time. But at any rate, I'm going to let Wilson talk.
Giving in so far that we don't have any technical issues for the moment,
Go for it.
Okay. As I was trying to say, humans are tribalistic by nature. So when a member of your in-group, your tribe, is out, it's your duty to put him in check. But God does it feel awful. It makes you feel personally responsible as if it is your failings that are being put on the line. But I encourage everybody to find the strength of character within them to do what Arken is doing here, because it is important. Because no matter what the conservatives and the Republicans will tell you, it is not a all for one and one for all thing here. It is a shared experience. We are humanity. We are Americans. We are here. And it's happening here. So we have to stand here together to fight injustices like this. And we all fight in different ways. Some with guns, some with protest signs. We all have our different ways. But it is our duty to keep each other in check while we do that. So, now we come to this idea of opposition, of fighting, of resisting, of doing our part. And that's going to get into our next segment. Log it 11:54 in the evening here in Central Daylight Time. Guys, we need to have a conversation about the Democrat Party. Most importantly, one how, at the very least for the past 2 weeks, they have failed to act as an opposition. We've said it before, I'll say it again, for posterity's sake. Flip the script. You know? If the Republicans were in the situation that the Democrats find themselves in now, would they be acting like the Democrats? No. They would be an opposition. They would be obstructionist. They would be rallying their base of supporters. They would be pulling unconstitutional tricks. They would be filibustering, filing lawsuits, wielding every part of her. Are we still having technical difficulties?
Yes, we are. Okay, we're back.
Alright. We have Chuck Schumer giving press briefs on things that are weeks old. Giving press briefs on things that are weeks old. That's a recap of where we are. But as time marches on, it just continues to appear that the Democratic Party is continuing to fail to act as an opposition, and that their leadership is completely stuck. And then the only people who are doing anything about this are the same people who are used to dealing with situations like this. The progressives. Your AOCs. Your Bernie Sanders. Your AOCs. Your Bernie Sanders.
Wilson, you keep talking. I'm gonna dip for a minute. I need to attend to something.
Okay. Thought I was about to interject there, but no. These are the same people who have not wanted to coalition Democrats for years. These are the same people who are diametrically opposed to institutions that make this country great and make it truly free, akin to capitalism. But they're also the same kind of people who are the loudest and arguably most annoying voices for the freedoms and rights of the most disinfected and disenfranchised people of this nation. Okay? So we've got the people who's resisting, who knows how to resist, but they also don't know how to play nice with their own playmates. And you have the people who you're supposed to look to for stability and promise, doing the sum total of fuck all, if not coddling up to the Republicans due to this notion of compromise. I want to let everyone on a little secret. It's called the middle ground fallacy. A lot of you probably have heard of it. For those of you who don't, I will just echo it right here for a point that I'm trying to make. If there are two sides of an argument, and one of them is morally reprehensible, if it's slavery should be allowed, or we should genocide the Jews, actually. If you are not diametrically opposed to such things, you are doing nothing but entitling these people, or rather, enabling these people to continue to function, to continue to do what they are already doing, what they are already platforming themselves on. And this is where the middle ground fallacy comes into effect, because any attempt to compromise, to de-radicalize these people, to find a middle ground, well, maybe only slavery in the southern states, well, maybe only the Jews of Germany. It's still a morally reprehensible state to find yourself in. You will still, even if you cannot, in the face of moral degradation, compromise. You can never compromise your morals, because the instant you try to find a middle ground, oh no. Ladies and gentlemen, we're having the guest star of Arken the American's dad here. Say hello.
Okay, I'm back.
Am I good to continue?
Yes, go ahead. I have been trying to fix our Wi-Fi issues. We are having a hell of a storm here in Southern California right now, so it could be weather. I don't think it is, but it's possible. If we crash, we crash.
Could be. But I'm going to continue to talk. But no. So you must be resolute in your beliefs and realize that trying to compromise with evil will only have you be doing the work of the devil. And that is exactly what Democrats are trying to do right now. It is ineffectual leadership combined with trying to show good faith of democratic principles by working with the very architects that is demolishing our democracy. That does not make them a democratic bulwark, that makes them accessories to a crime. And Hakeem Jeffries knows this, because otherwise he wouldn't be furious, he wouldn't be agitated when his supporters call him and tell him that's what he's doing. So though their diametric opposal to capitalism leaves them inept, the progressives have momentum at the present point. And if the Democrats and the moderates want a shot of ever winning an election again, they better stop coddling the Republicans. They better start acting like an opposition. They better start doing the same things that progressives are doing, parroting their talking points. Hell, Medicare for all, free colleges, wipe out student debt. Things that the American public wants, the American public needs. Because otherwise, we will have two anti-democratic, pandering to their base, populist groups that will be Newton's cradling back and forth until time immemorial, until one of them decides that the other is the morally reprehensible part and genocide them out of existence, politically speaking. When we say the Democrats need to kick themselves into gear, that's what we're saying. Do not make deals with the devil. Show your complete and utter opposition and stalwart nature of your faith. Faith in democracy. Faith in this country. Faith in your constituents, if nothing else. What we need...
Where are we at?
Ladies and gentlemen. I have been bouncing around this point, or actually I haven't brought this up. I've been bouncing around this point, this point, this point. I haven't brought up this, and I haven't brought up this.
Fair enough. I want Bernie Sanders, because you just know more about it.
The good senator from Vermont.
Hang on, before you do,
Senator Sanders.
I have to follow due diligence and acknowledge a donation of $65 from I just recently opened a Patreon, and I have the Ranger Corps. I need to come up with a better name for that group. But our Marshal of the Rangers is this fine fellow, Eodas. I think that's how you pronounce that. And he asks me because whenever I'm donated money, I answer questions. He asked me, am I a Jake or a Jacob? I myself am a Jake. I am not. I hate being called that. I've always hated that. I am a Jacob. I am Yaakov, actually. But that's not my legal name, so I am a Jacob. Vermont, sorry, I have to answer questions when I get them.
Indeed.
Money.
So, the good senator from Vermont is an argumentative genius. And if the Democrat Party wants any chance at electoral success, they are going to want to listen to what he has to say, follow in his footsteps, if not do precisely what he wants. Right? There is a recipe for success here. Bernie has been doing anti-oligarchy cross-country tours in the most disaffected of our society to help them realize, hey, make hay while the sun shines. Y'all still have a voice. Better get ready to use it. Don't give up the shit. He has been active. He's been going out doing things. He has been pointing out the real problem in this country, which is the tech bros, the billionaires, the oligarchs, the groypers, the cloud chasers, the Republicans, and their donors. And the only reason that the Democrats don't fold in lockstep with him is because they will feel as though they're hypocrites, because they are also taking money from donors and billionaires. I offer this argument to the Democratic Party. Lie! Because the Republicans do. The person who's yelling drain the swamp in the donor class is in the donor class. Profited billions off of shorting his own crypto meme coin the day before his presidency. He's a liar. He lies. Either pivot away from billion-dollar donations and go to the small-dollar donations of your base, the people you are supposed to represent, or lie and start saying drain the fucking swamp. But do it in a different way, because if you just start parroting Trump talking points, it will just be advertisement for Trump. Right? Bernie's out here, he's doing something. At the core, I like a couple of his policies. Sure, he is an avowed anti-capitalist, but he knows that everything that he wants to do for socialized medicine, or at the very least a state-provided alternative to medicine, free colleges, infrastructure re-enhancements, protectionist tariffs in order to revitalize American industry are widely popular and expensive. So who must pay for these? The billionaires, the people with the money, the people who could sneeze and pay for their entire state's college campus's tuition if they really wanted to. But they don't because they're greedy. These people is where the money is. These people must be paying their fair shares in order to have a great society.
All right, Lyndon.
And the Democrats need to start picking up on this as well. Am I wrong? I will start talking about the Lyndon Johnsons, the Harry Trumans, the FDRs, the JFKs, the
Great Democratic
LBJs.
heroes.
Because I am tired of Democratic congressmen going up on stage and glazing ancient Republicans. The people who you are talking to, Slotkin, Miss Slotkin, when you delivered the response, the people you were talking to, their parents never voted for Reagan. Why are you glazing him? They never voted for Bush. You were delusional.
It's a virtue signal. It's a way of saying, oh,
To who? That we, the leadership of the Democratic Party, love glazing the right wing?
Grazing. Honestly, just to, like, run-of-the-mill Democrat voters, it's kind of it's a way of saying, it's like when Republicans, there's this meme, I told you about this, there's this meme that's going around that's like, oh, are you a right-wing extremist? No, I'm a Democrat from 20 years ago. And of course they're not Democrats from 20 years ago. 20 years ago was 2005. John Kerry had just lost the election. They would not have voted, and they in fact did not vote for John Kerry in 2004. It's not that they actually like Republicans, any of those Republicans, or that they would have voted for them. It's just a way of virtue signaling that we are better than them. We are so bipartisan. You know, bipartisanship is this big good word that you're supposed to aspire to. We're bipartisan. We're bipartisan. We respect the other side, but now they've gone crazy. Same thing Republicans have been doing. I mean, especially because their president is a former Democrat. They especially are able to harp on this more than before. That's not the problem. The problem is that the fight has completely gone out of the Democratic Party, or so it seems. And I kind of understand it. Because, yeah, it's depressing. It's very depressing to know that we now live in... I just opened Twitter trying to find something, and I saw Joshua Eckel, my friend and one of the main organizers of Project Liberal, saying that we need to stop saying we're on the road to authoritarianism. We're there. We're at the end of the road. We live in an authoritarian state. We're here. Like I keep saying, we live here now. And I think a lot of Democrats are just depressed by that knowledge and don't know what to do. But... so I'll say this.
Guys, the answer could not be more simple.
I'll say this. Two things. So, two regular people who are depressed and hopeless. I get it. I don't agree with you, but I get it. Take your time. Keep your mouth shut until you're ready to fight again, and then get back in the fight. But two elected Democrats, who of course it's not like there's any watching this, probably, but this is the message that all of you need to be this is the message that we all need to be boosting to our own elected representatives, is that Kamala Harris did not lose in a landslide. She lost by 1.5% of the popular vote. The Electoral College was not a landslide either. It was pretty solid, but 312 out of 538 is not an overwhelming majority. It's a majority, but it's not an overwhelming majority. Trump won by one of the narrowest margins ever, and in the House, his majority is 2 seats. In the Senate, his majority is 3. That's not huge. That's not that many seats that he has over us. That's not that many votes he has over us. Kamala Harris brought to the Democratic Party what it has needed for years. She brought real energy and vigor and force to the party. She saved us from a total wipeout. We now know what the internal Biden campaign team data was. It had him losing by a margin of 410 electoral votes. The last time I think that happened would have been either Reagan or Bush 1. It's been many, many, many years since any candidate has lost so resoundingly. I think Obama in 2008 won with 365 electoral votes. That would have been a total wipeout. Kamala Harris stepped in, and within 107 days, she saved our party. I'll say our party. I'm not a Democrat, but for the next 4 years, I might as well be. She saved our party from total annihilation and gave us a shot at turning this ship around. I don't think she's going to run in 2028. We'll talk about potential candidates in a little bit. But she saved us from total catastrophe. We either capitalize on that, and on the fact that, again, a huge swath of Americans voted for her. 47% is nothing to sneeze at. That energy has not gone anywhere. It's still there, but it needs to be utilized. Elected Democrats right now are failing to do so. Bernie, who I don't like at all, I'd never vote for him in a primary, is the only one actually doing something right now. The progressives as a whole, I don't like them, and we're going to get into why I don't like them. But they're the only ones doing anything right now. This is one of our major points that I would like to talk about. Americans want two things the last 20 years out of their candidates. They want two things. They want a moderate. This is something that progressives really hate to acknowledge, but in 2016, most voters perceived Hillary Clinton as the more radical candidate. You and I, you the viewer, the broadcaster, know that that's a heaping load of bullshit, that obviously Trump is far more extreme, and to you, Hillary is probably a boring milquetoast centrist. But propaganda is very effective and perception is reality. The majority of people viewed Hillary Clinton as the more radically left-wing candidate versus Trump as the more radically right-wing candidate. The same thing is true of Kamala Harris, who presented herself in a very moderate way, but there's still all those clips from the 2020 Democratic primary where she was this crazy progressive, and the fact that the left has colonized the Democratic Party as much as it has means people don't believe her. She simply didn't have the time to turn the ship around. Had Biden, allowed there to be an open primary, she probably would have won, and she probably could have won the general election and changed perceptions of the party. People viewed the Democratic Party as the more extreme one. In fact, I have an image that I saved to prove that point, and I found it the other day. How did voters see themselves, Harris and Trump, ideologically on a liberal to conservative scale? Most liberal and 10 being the most conservative and 5 presumably being right in the middle. Voters rated themselves just a little bit right of center. They rated Trump fairly right-wing, and Kamala as basically a hardline leftist. It's not true, but again, perception is reality. People don't care about what is real. What looks real is real. And people have perceived Trump as the more moderate candidate, so they want a moderate candidate. And, at the same time, the other heuristic that is 100% guaranteed a win in an American election in the last 20 years is fucking do something. Do anything. Doesn't matter what. People want change because they detect a stagnating system. A lot of the criticisms that the American political and economic system is faced with are wrong, but the core of the argument that something is off, that the system is broken, that we are stagnating, that's basically true. People want a candidate who will fucking do something. Trump promised to do something. Biden, in his first campaign, promised to do something. Obama, couldn't be more on the nose. Hope and change. How much more overt does it really get? Hope and change, please. But it worked. It really works. Hope and change is an effective strategy. People want hope and people want change. Change is really what won Obama the election, it's what won Trump both times, and it's what won Biden. People want a candidate who will change shit without being crazy. These things are often contradictory, but humans are not famous for their logical consistency. We are all hypocrites. We believe wholly contradictory things and we hold them in our heads at once. This is what Orwell called doublethink. It's not doublethink in the Orwellian sense, it's more so just no logic going into decisions. But that's where we're at. Bernie's not a moderate. He would not win an election. I really don't believe that. But he is promising to do something, and that makes him popular. If progressives, who know how to fight but not how to govern, and centrists, who know more or less how to govern but absolutely don't know how to fight, if they can set aside their petty differences and work together, we can win. We were always able to win. We always had that ability. Our failure to stand up to Trump and to the neo-fascist movement as progressives, leftists, liberals, whatever you want to call yourself, Democrats, our failure to unite against this is the only reason they won, and they barely won. It isn't that hard to beat them, but we gotta actually present some kind of a united front against Trump, against his movement, against what he represents. I posted something the other day. It was the 60th anniversary of the Selma March, which was a very famous moment in the civil rights movement. And there was this photo posted of a bunch of congressional leaders arms joined together like the original march, marching across the bridge, commemorative march. And I saw some, Democrat account on Twitter going, too much of these streams comes from what I see on Twitter, but some regular Dem account said oh, you know who you don't see in this picture? Bernie. It's a very long running story that centrist Democrats like to tell themselves that Bernie's racist. His supporters are racist. A lot of his supporters are racist. Fine. But Bernie is not racist. He never has been and he never will be. He is a progressive Jew from Brooklyn. He was one of the leaders of the Congress of Racial Equality back in the day. He's not racist. So I posted this. Centrist Democrats, please stop pretending that they're racist, because they're not. And the ones that aren't really important. And in exchange, Bernie bros, progressives, leftists, whatever you like to call yourselves, anarcho-syndicalists of the world, when you scratch a liberal, a fascist does not bleed. Liberal governance, centrist governance, is not perfect. But it's better than this. It's better than the fascists. Be reasonable. Compromise. Show that you are actually capable of being a serious political movement. More than anything else, more than our two-party system, more than moneyed interests, more than anything, the reason that the left does not really have power in this country is because they never wanted power. They want to endlessly critique power. And that's not my line. That's Natalie Wynn. But It's true. Leftists over and over and over and over again have shown that they don't want power or victory. They want to be endlessly in the position of fighting. We're always fighting for something. We can't ever accept our victories. This is what Bill Maher calls progressophobia. It's true. We are afraid of progress. We are afraid of victory. We are afraid of power. I say we as though I'm a leftist. I'm not. I'm very vehemently against socialism and leftism and all this. But I understand that there are allies, potential allies. I understand that we stand against a common foe. But we're not going to work with you if all you're able to give us is Genocide Joe. If you're seriously laboring under the delusion that Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or Tim Walz is worse for Palestinians than Donald Trump, you're not a serious person. Kamala would not have been a perfect president. Biden was not a perfect president. I think Biden was pretty good, and I think Kamala would have been pretty good. Not perfect, but okay. But both of them are orders of magnitude better than Trump. And until progressives understand this, there is no victory for us. Compromise, and you will win. Fail to do so, and this fascist movement that has taken over our country will never die. It can happen. The collapse of autocracy is built into itself, but it's not inevitable. Russia has been some form of dictatorship, I count monarchy as dictatorship in this case, for centuries. First we had czars and emperors, then we had general secretaries, and now the president, who has been the same person for 25, well, barring 4 years where he was quote-unquote prime minister, 25 years of Putin in power. That can happen. It does happen. We talked about neo-monarchy last time. We talked about Azerbaijan, where the first president was somebody called Aliyev, the next president was somebody called Aliyev, the former president's son, and the current vice president is another Aliyev, the current president's son. It can happen. It does happen. I don't think we're going there, but we can. We could. And we have to make sure that doesn't happen. So progressives, grow up. Come on now. It's time. It is time to fight, which you are very good at. And Democrats, it's time to fight as well. And when we win, both sides have to accept some compromises. There's this very good quote, I am not a member of any organized political party. I am a Democrat. And haha, it's funny. But we need to be an organized political party. We need the same messaging cohesion that Republicans have. Republicans are a very big tent. And they have a lot of internal disagreements. But you wouldn't know it if you're politically unengaged. Because they don't look terrifyingly unified. You have Christian nationalists, you have libertarians, you have tech bros, but all of them are spouting the same nonsense because they have the messaging discipline of the Workers' Party of North Korea. And that's what we need. We need messaging discipline. And we need to fight. And I'm going to hand it over to Wilson because I've been talking long enough. But there is no party in the United States without compromise. And if you fail to compromise, then you failed. Wilson, your turn. He may have.
You said all that there is to say, really.
Oh, there he is. Excellent.
Like, here's the deal. Here is what ultimately comes of all of this, right? Everything that's been said, everything that's going on, everything that's not being done is a deliberate engineering tactic. Right? The think that this is the new normal. We are meant to think that this is normalized. That this is not just a wind that will blow over us, and the sands of time will continue to fall and build Saharan peak after Saharan peak. But as important that it is to remember, it's also unhelpful. Because unfortunately, we are not time demons. We do not control the flow of time. We are simply stuck in this. There is no normalcy behind us and no reprieve ahead for us anytime soon. We are, as a nation, as a people, stuck with rationalizing the fact that everything is crazy and everything will change constantly, rapidly. But that this is meant to be the new standard. That instability is supposed to be the new standard. Don't think that you are crazy if you are feeling like this. When people were younger, and democracy was but a novel idea construed by the less oppressed of society, people, specifically men of power, although sometimes women, would shake up the instability based off of their whims, based off of personal exploits and slights to their character. And that was the standard for hundreds of years. Degraded from a classical idea of ruling by consent. And once we rediscovered that tradition, did we, as a society, as a people, realize that we preferred that stability? That we did not appreciate our lives being upended by the whims of tyrants. And so we took action. All across the globe did we take action. Some was stamped out, others were not. But we have enjoyed 2.5 centuries of this form of stability. It has been tested multiple times before. It is being tested now. The people who will in the same breath use tradition to market change will do so under the guise of accountability, do so only for personal gain. The tools of the enemy can still be used against them. For just because you pick up a rifle to defend yourself does not make you the equivalent of somebody who picked up a rifle to oppress and injure others. They are tools. And they convey a message of intent. But it is the personal accountability of the wielder to stand true to their personal beliefs and use their very dangerous tools for good. I ask all of you, be not afraid to use the tools of the enemy, so long as you wield them with the good intentions of bringing stability and the great liberal tradition that we as a society took hundreds, if not almost 1,000 years to rediscover. For when we had it, we blossomed. There was hope. And there was a great sense that nothing could get in our way. Such a time was beautiful. Such a time was optimistic. That is what we, as progressives, as liberals, as moderates, hell, as even social democrats, must remind ourselves of. We are part of a great liberal tradition. It is the youngest tradition, but 250 years of stability is not to be snuffed at. Let us not go back to the times of tyrants and their whims, and let's continue to convey to our representatives that we recognize the new order and that we are prepared to fight against it. For we see a vision, a new birth of freedom and optimism across the world and across these United States.
Way to just borrow my lines. And Lincoln's. Very well, however.
Indeed. So now, ladies and gentlemen, as we dawn this new birth of freedom, as we prepare ourselves, as we get into our nursing gowns and decontaminate ourselves to be in the birthing ward for this very troubled yet monumentous occasion, let us see who are the surgeons who are preparing this messy cesarean section, who are reminding us of that old quote of John Paul Jones, to not give up the ship. Of those people who remember the great beacons of stability and do not cow to the same sidesism that would have people equate their actions or their likes or their loyalties to their opposition. So let us turn now to the Democrats who are doing something.
Before we do, hang on. I want to read something I saw in chat because I like it a lot. I'm just going to read it verbatim. Our democracy was given to us, so we have forgotten how it came about. People fought and died for our democracy. If need be, we need to do the same. Democracy is a revolutionary ideology. We've talked about this before. But actually, I don't know if we have. You and I have. I don't know if we've said this on the stream. Liberalism is a radical tradition. The American Revolution, it's called a conservative revolution because the people who led the country were essentially revolting in order to keep leading the country. It was kind of a coup in that sense, more than a revolution. But the tradition that we followed in was a radical tradition. It was a tradition of radical change. We overthrew a monarch and created the first democratic republic, as far as I know, in the world, in centuries, if not millennia. The United States very much was a new birth of freedom. It was a new chance for democratic politics in the world. We used to be revolutionaries. I don't believe in revolution as a concept. I don't think we currently, anyway, need a violent revolution. It might come to that, but I don't think it's come to that yet. But we can be revolutionary in our aims, not necessarily our methods. Revolutionary in the aims of revitalizing the country as a system that works for the people. A system where you can rise from poverty to the middle class and stay there through your own hard work and maybe a bit of luck and a bit of help. There has never been bootstraps to pull yourself up by. There has just been you, your community, and the system you live in. I'm not a bootstrapsist, but I am a opportunityist. I believe that hard work, even now, even with how bad things have gotten, hard work does still get you something now. Just a lot less than it used to. That is what Democrats need to campaign on. This is something we were talking about last night. Not on making America great again, per se. That term is gone forever. but on, at the very least, making America great. On not returning. We can't return. We can't go back in time. On making America
Return to a monkey.
on making America better. How about that? Just make America work again. Make our country into the shining city on the hill that we have envisioned for centuries and that we have chased for centuries. It is an ideal we will never be able to meet. That is not an admission of defeat. It is simply a statement of purpose. That we need to chase that goal forever. We need to do our best to reach it. We will never reach it fully, but we can begin to grasp it, and we did, for a fleeting moment in time before we gave it up. That was a choice. We can make a different choice. That's what Democrats need to be campaigning on. Instead of auction paddles, matching pink blazers, and off-key protest songs. To that end, I want to talk about candidates for 2028, something we've kind of touched on before. But we've been talking about this over the last couple of days, and I think this is... I want to end on a high note. We can't always do that, but I think today we can. We're going to talk about potential 2028 candidates, and we're going to talk about potential hope within the Democratic Party. Do you want to take this, or should I?
Be my guest. You are, my friend, you are the one whose screen capture is able to actually capture their screen.
That's a good point.
And is what the fine people are saying. Ladies and gentlemen, prepare for the finest glazing of Democrats you've ever seen in your life.
Introducing. I want to make the case for Tim Walz. Tim Walz, he is the governor of Minnesota. He is a former member of the House of Representatives, and he was the vice presidential candidate on the Democratic ticket in the previous election. He was the most popular of all four people on the ballot. Trump, Kamala, Vance, and Walz. He was by far the most popular. He had like a 60 or 65% favorability rating. Arken 2026. I will not be legal enough. I will not be legal to run for president until several elections from now. Anyway, Tim Walz was the most popular member of either ticket. He is a moderate in the way he presents himself, very folksy in a way, but his policies are very much do-something-ist, as previously discussed. And the immediate thing you'd say to that, to the idea that he should run again, is, well, he lost last time. Who wants to vote for a loser? My answer to that is FDR, who ran as vice president in 20 or 24, and lost, and then ran in 1932 at the top of the ticket and won resoundingly. And more recently, Richard Nixon, who ran in 1960, lost by a hair's breadth, and then ran in 1968 and won a very solid victory, and then ran again in 1972 and won an even more solid victory. In fact, one of the strongest Republican victories in all of American history. This is not unprecedented. Trump, by the way, lost in 2020. He ran in 2024 and won. If you solidify yourself as a member of politics, let's just call it like that, not a member of Congress, a member of the Senate, it doesn't matter, a member of politics, a participant in politics, a voice. If you make yourself a voice, if you make yourself seen and heard, and normalize yourself, you can actually win. Trump has proven that. He's unique, but that's not what makes him unique. That's just electoral strategy. And that's something anyone can replicate. Tim Walz has the sauce, ladies and gentlemen. He has the policies. He has the voice. He has the face. He has it all. And genuinely, I think he'd be, just like personally, I think he would be an excellent president. I think he'd do a great job. And I want to harp on this just a tiny bit longer. Trump lost in 2020, and normally, when a candidate loses an election, they gracefully retire from politics or go back to Congress or the Senate. And that's that. Trump is unique in that sense because he doesn't know how to admit loss. He has the Republican Party in a stranglehold. Had he given up, we'd have a more or less normal Republican Party now. But he didn't. He stayed. He kept talking. He became a face people knew. Unlike Kamala, who we've barely seen until her 107-day campaign. Tim Walz has remained in the public eye. Now, I don't know if he's going to run in 2028, but I hope he does. Because, at least based on what I see right now, I see a path for him. I see energy, I see vigor, and I see a desire for someone like him. Not him specifically. People, again, I think people wanted a moderate who will do something. He is moderate, or at least presents himself as such, who promises to do something. I have 3 other candidates listed here who are Jon Stewart, John Ossoff, and Andy Bashir. Jon Stewart's kind of a joke. I don't think he'll run, and if he does, I don't think he'd be a great candidate. Trump has shown us that comedians do not make very good politicians. But he does know how to talk. He does know how to galvanize people. And that is what we need. He could win. I don't think he'd do a really good job as president, but as a candidate, he'd be great. John Ossoff is I actually don't know if they have a junior senator right now since they were elected in the same year, but he is a senator from Georgia. He is, I think, 39 years old. He's, how old is he? He is 38. He's 38 years old. He is very good looking, and we know that looks do actually affect political outcomes. Oh, J.B. Pritzker, that's another one. Thank you. I knew I was missing someone. We'll get back to that. But so he is moderate. He is from the South. He has apparently a background in journalism, which I personally like. He won a Senate race in Georgia. He could win, and he certainly knows how to talk. J.B. Pritzker, governor, somebody in chat mentioned this is... Gavin Newsom can talk. He can talk, but he is awful. He is run our own state into the ground. And people hate him. Californians hate him. And people outside California hate him even more. He has no chance. J.B. Pritzker is the governor of Illinois. He's another very good candidate. He's an excellent public speaker. He is decently well known. He has a pretty strong base of support as is. He has very strong ethics, or at least the appearance of it, because he's very wealthy, personally. But there was a case, I don't remember exactly what happened, but there was a case where I think one of his family members' company was being litigated for some malpractice, and he, as governor of Illinois, could have stepped in. Past governors have done just that. He refused to, very publicly. And is it a publicity stunt? Sure it is. But that doesn't matter. He's a very good option. Andy Bashir, another one, governor of Kentucky, the most popular governor in the United States at the moment. I think last I saw it was a 67% approval rating, a Democrat governor in the South. And he's not like a Joe Manchin Democrat who's practically a Republican. He's a Democrat who publicly stands up for things like trans rights in Kentucky. And he has won, I think, 2 elections now. I know he won 2019 election. I'll quickly find so I'm not spitting bullshit at you guys. He won 2019 pretty narrowly. He won 2023 by a larger margin. He's very, very popular. And I believe he's term limited in 2027 anyway. He is. So he's another very good candidate. Again, a southern, let's be honest, white guy who knows how to talk. Those are my proposed candidates. I don't know that all of them are good. I think Tim Walz is the best of all of them, though I think all of them have something to offer. Glimmer of hope. It's a chance for the future. Most popular Democrat. The most popular governor right now is Phil Scott in Vermont. Okay, fair enough. The most popular Dem governor, though, 67% is nothing to sneeze at. Wilson, if you want to add anything?
I do not at the present moment.
Then the last thing I want to do before we wrap it up, we had a little bet with Wilson on how long the stream was going to take. We organized it a lot more than the previous ones. We wrote it out a lot more, pre-wrote it. I thought that would mean we'd talk longer. Wilson thought it would mean we're more organized. I guess he's right, because we're at 2.5 hours and we're nearly done. So, yay. I want to show you 2 accounts on Twitter, and seriously, I know it's silly, but actually worth talking about for a little bit. Democrats have a problem. They don't know how to talk like fucking people. They don't know how to get down to earth, because they're all very well educated. If you look at every Democratic candidate in the last, 40 years, they're all very well educated. Which is fine, and it's good for our leaders to be well educated, but they have to be able to, they have to be able to talk to normies, basically. They have to essentially dumb it down, if we're being honest. And Democrats have been very bad at this. I mean, I've been seeing them post 14-point summaries of their policies or of Trump's policies and how they're bad. Nobody wants to read that. I don't want to read that, and I'm well educated enough. But clearly, in the last day or two, they've hired some new person. And I know they have, because as a member of Project Liberal, I know we hired a new meme guy recently, and we've been blowing up ever since. And it's a very sudden turn in their marketing strategy, so I'm guessing they have some new guy. So I want to show you something before we leave. This is the Democratic Congressional Campaign Commission. I'm pretty sure that's what DCCC stands for, and I can't be bothered to check. Basically, it's in the name. It is committed to electing Democrats to the U.S. House of Representatives. And this is what they've been doing for the last number of time. Just regular Democrat boilerplate, hands off Medicaid, yeah, whatever. And then there's this one thing, which I'm guessing was a test case for them. Just a dumb little meme. Hey, liberals. Crash the stock market. It's a decent meme. It's a start, right? It was a test case. It got 2 million impressions, 16,000 likes, and broadly popular. So then a few more days of this crap. And then for the last 48 hours or so, they have just been fully on the offensive. This is the S&P, I think this is the S&P 500, yeah, US 500. Republicans inherited one of the strongest stock markets in history. Within 1 month, they fucked it all up. 7 million impressions. 7 million views. And getting close to 100,000 likes. This... I mean, I'm really just doing a meme review at this point. We've gone through most of our major points. But I want to show this as an example of what could be, what can be, what should be. Democrats need to talk like fucking people. Communicate like fucking people. Most corrupt administration in American history. Not amazing. It's a start. And if we can do this for the next 4 years, 2 years even, until the midterms, we can win. That is just a thing that we can do. Here's Democrats' main account. Regular, just... I want to find the, this guy wearing his very strange outfit with his very long quote that nobody wants to read, and their graphs, and their group photos. And then, one morning, they woke up and chose violence.
And I think, frankly, if I didn't win, I think the stock market would crash.
And in the background, the stock market crashing. Very good, Democrats. Very good. I mean, the bar is very low. This was another very good one. I'm not going to harp on this for too long, because it's not that amazing. This one is. This one is hilarious. We were talking about Trump selling Teslas on the White House lawn, and they posted this. This is just incredible. This is the first one I actually really love. But it's a glimmer of hope for the future. This is what we can have, this is what we should have, and this is what all of us need to be doing. Relentless mockery does actually work. It is an effective political strategy. This is what we need for the next 4 years. The title of this stream is Old World Wars, we talked about Ukraine, and New World Tyrants. Trump is our New World Tyrant. But the limits of tyrants are prescribed by the endurance of those whom they oppress. The more you stand up to them, the more afraid they are to do anything. Call your damn congressman. I said I want to do this on stream at some point, and I will. I'm going to make a plan to do it at some point. Whenever the news slows down a little bit more, it's probably what I'm going to do on stream. Call your congressman. Go to city council meetings. Go to town halls. Build the infrastructure. Grassroots means us. It doesn't mean those protesters over there. It means us. This is what I do. Speaking to an audience of roughly 30 people, ranting about politics for 2 to 6 hours. I could do more. I should do more. I plan to do more. But each and every one of us can do something. Whatever that something is, go and do it. If you live in a heavily Republican area, your representative in Congress is a Republican. Both of your senators are Republicans. Your governor is a Republican. Doesn't matter. The left has fundamentally forgotten how to persuade people. They have forgotten how to sit down and talk to people and bring them over to our side. We can do it. We have done it many times before. But there came a certain point, sometime in the last 15 years, when we just gave up and said, nope, fuck them. Not worth our time. Well, then who is? What is? We need them to vote for us. We need them not to vote for the Republicans at the very least. And the way we do that is by persuading them, by sitting down and talking to them. So call your congressman, call your senator, call your mayor, call your governor. It's their job to listen to you. And they probably won't listen to you. They probably won't do anything. Talk to your friends. Talk to your family. Find people who do agree. Organize. I hate that word because it's what progressives do to make excuses for not voting. You should vote too when the time comes. But organize your friends and your family and your peer groups, your classmates, your coworkers, your fellow churchgoers, whatever it is. Organize the people around you who already agree and try to convince the people around you who don't. You won't always win. Maybe you won't even win most of the time. Or any of the time. But you have to try. Because, frankly, what else are you going to do? There is nowhere in the world where you cannot find like-minded people. You just have to have the courage and the conviction to take the plunge and look for them. Remember, right up until 1988, California, my home state, was solidly Republican. Until it wasn't. And it hasn't been since then. And it can be Republican again. It's entirely possible. Nothing is forever, nothing is inevitable. And if you find yourself going nowhere with your arguments with family members and friends and teachers and coworkers and classmates, arm yourself with knowledge, in this case, not weapons. Don't go shoot your teachers and coworkers. But arm yourself with knowledge. Arm yourself with talking points if you have to. Learn the ins and outs of their arguments and of your own, and stand on your damn business. Stand on your principles, stand on your beliefs, and advocate them. And when you meet pushback, don't be Donald Trump. The motto of the National Review, whenever William F. Buckley founded it in the 50s or 60s, was that they were standing athwart history, shouting no. Something along that line. That's what you need to do. You're faced with pushback for your views? Doesn't matter. Rely upon the strength of your convictions. Stand up for what you believe in. Victory is not guaranteed. But failure is guaranteed if you don't try. There is a 100% chance of failure if we do nothing, and a less than 100% chance of victory if we do try. To me, the logical choice is very clear. I'm gonna get Wilson to unmute himself and add on to that anything he wants to. I will take a couple of questions, and then we are going to call it a night.
No, I truthfully think you kind of hammered home every point that I would have wanted to make. We have made ourselves clear and concise for once during this stream.
Yeah, we're at less than 3 hours.
Yeah. But no, I think we should take some questions now. Don't give up the ship.
There's a couple that I wanted to. A couple of donations I got, by the way, that I have to thank people for. I didn't get to earlier. An account called Conspiracy Flyer, and I'm really curious what that channel name is based upon. It's an aviation channel. That's adorable. I love that kind of stuff. So, Conspiracy Flyer donated $5. Said, "This is all I can afford. If I could give more, I would. Thank you. You do not need to give more. Anything is appreciated. My question is, what do you think the likelihood of an American collapse or civil war?" To which my answer is, well, collapse, we're there, but civil war, next to none. Civil wars are based on geography as much as anything else. I mean, it doesn't have to be. But the first American Civil War was a stark geographic divide. That doesn't exist here. There are Republicans and Democrats everywhere. In every county that is Republican, there are Democrats, and in every county that is Republican, there are Democrats. There are more Republicans in California than there are in Texas. You wouldn't know it, but there are. I've met them. I know them. They're my friends. They're my, well, not, actually, I don't think we have any Republican family members, but they're my friends, they're my colleagues, they're my in-laws, practically. They live here too. Democrats live in Texas too. I think the statistic is there's more Republicans in California than in Texas, and more Democrats in Texas than in New York. I think that's the statistic. I could be wrong. Point is, I don't believe there will be a civil war because I don't think there's any battle lines to draw. There could be a civil strife of sorts, the Troubles, like in Ireland. Neighbor turning against neighbor, it's possible. I don't think that's where we're headed. It's not impossible anymore. And that is a scary thought. As for an American collapse, I think an American decay and descent into a permanent oligarchy and aristocracy and autocracy is a lot more likely than a full-on disintegration, just based on the way things are going right now. There just aren't very many strong secession movements. People don't want to be independent of the United States, that energy just doesn't seem to be there. But a permanent decay is certainly possible. All right, I want to answer Kevin, who texted me and said, "Don't bother thanking me, but fuck you, thank you." Kevin is a friend of mine. We've known each other since high school. He's a former Marine. He's a lovely fellow. He said something that I do actually want to point out. You're giving the Democrats too much credit. Obama is the rule, not the standard when it comes to Democrats. I'm assuming he means the exception, not the rule. The average Democrat position is this far and no further. And this is true. And this is sort of what I was harping on earlier, so I won't talk about it for too long. But Democrats have become very afraid of doing shit over the last couple decades. The last Democrat who really did something was Clinton. And even he could have gone further. If you really want to go back, the last Democrat who actually did something was LBJ, which was 60 years ago, almost. 57 years ago when he left office. I do agree with that. The average Democrat position is this far and no further. I believe in moderate politics, but I do at the same time believe that moderates can be radical. Radicalism and moderatism are not opposites. We have imagined that they are, and that is a failure of our imagination. Moderates can do radical things. Moderates can bring about radical change, and radical change can be good. Radicalism is not a bad thing. Extremism, I'd be more willing to say is a bad thing, though not in all cases. Extremism is relative. A liberal is an extremist in Russia or Saudi Arabia. In the United States, I'd say extremism is a bad thing. But radicalism is not. And I love you too, Kevin. He called me a bastard. I'm touched. That's his way of saying I love you. He's saying that he would...
Marine, that comes log standard when you enlist.
Uh-huh. He's saying that he'd say FDR is the last really radical Democrat. I get where you're coming from, but I raised you the Great Society programs and the Civil Rights Acts. He definitely could have gone further, but I'm not a purist. I don't expect that it will always be exactly as I want it. He really did bring about radical change, and he was the last Democrat to do so. He wasn't the last Democrat to try, but he was the last Democrat to achieve it. And ultimately, I don't care what a politician tried, because I'm not his friend. I'm not going to give him an A for effort. I want to see what Democrats actually achieved. What a politician, any politician, actually achieved. So I'd say LBJ. FDR, you can make a case. I counter don't ask, don't tell. We've had this conversation before. I know he did a lot of shit that I don't agree with. Don't ask, don't tell is one of them. I raise you that don't ask, don't tell was a critical step in allowing gay people into the military. It was 2 steps back before a great leap forward. I don't agree with the policy in principle, of course. Don't ask, don't tell, for those of you who don't know, was a policy that Clinton implemented in the 90s, which lasted until, I think, Obama. It was a policy of basically, we won't ask about your sexuality so long as you don't tell us about it, and we'll let you into the military. And it was roundly and rightly criticized for, for forcing gay people to hide their identity, which is, of course, horrible and wrong. But when I see it, it got us to the point where gay people are currently allowed in the military, openly. And I think that's better than nothing. He did compromise, and I don't think he should have. Especially as, if I remember correctly, it was after his second election anyway. Could be wrong about that. Don't ask, don't tell. No, okay. 1994. So he did kind of have to compromise. My opinion, the compromise was fine. He should have reneged on the compromise before he left office. That was the mistake, I think, not the compromise itself. But, alright, unless we have any further questions, I'll wait 10, 20 seconds. We'll call it here. We're at less than 30 seconds, or 30 seconds. We're less than 30, or fucking falling asleep. We're less than 3 hours, which makes this the shortest Fireside Chat, and therefore, in my opinion, the best. This is also the highest viewership we've ever had, I believe. 42 was our peak, which is excellent. We've had an average of about 30, which is great. What does the writing in the top left say? Ah, okay, sure. I don't mind that. We can talk about the. So remind me. I don't. Or it's a good thing we're ending now. I'm fucking losing my ability to speak coherently. I'm like Joe Biden. The writing in the top left is Ukrainian, which I don't speak. But I can kind of...
He cannot speak Ukrainian.
I can kind of interpret it, because I do speak Russian fluently. So let me go and actually find the image that Wilson sent me. Wilson found all the posters today, and I thank him for that, because I did not have time for it, what with my fucking car being stolen. So it's the original picture. I'll go through all of them. Why the hell not? Actually, no, I won't. The other two are boring as shit. But I apologize to any Ukrainian viewers, because I'm sure I'm going to butcher the pronunciation on this. So it's 3 Ukrainian soldiers standing atop, I'm not entirely certain what this is. It looks like a ship with the prow, whose masthead is also holding a rifle. And the writing says Vsi zahist Kyiva, which means, or Vsi na zahist Kyiva, which means everyone for the defense or protection of Kyiv. So this would have been from the start of the war when Kyiv was under siege. I love this poster very much. This is Wilson's Providence, and I thank him for it. We have a couple other questions. What do I think of the Florida governor election in 2026? I don't, because I don't know who's in the running. I have not really followed it at all. I know Ron DeSantis' wife is apparently talking about running. Who would be fine, I guess. I don't know. Byron Donalds is the only declared candidate, according to Wikipedia. He is a congressional representative. I've seen him on Bill Maher a couple times. He seems like a decent guy, but he is ultimately a Republican bootlicker, and therefore I think he's terrible. He's a big supporter of Trump, therefore he is probably one of the worst candidates. Actually, Moody. And apparently Matt Gaetz, the pedophile, has also declared interest. He hasn't publicly declared, but he's expressed interest in the race, which would be hilarious. I don't think he really has a chance. In fact, though, on the other hand, I kind of want him to run and win the primary, because if he wins the Republican primary, then we get a Democratic governor of Florida. Florida is Republican, but I don't think it's that Republican. As for the Democratic primary, I don't know any of these names at all, so those are my very, very boring opinions on the Florida election. Occam asked a question a few minutes ago. What did he ask? Would you still be interested in getting subtitles on your Star Wars video? Yes! Yes, I would. We will discuss this in private. How do I convince my right-wing family that the current Republican shit isn't normal and that he isn't good for us? We're talking Uncle watches the Daily Wire. Yeah. So look, I mean, I'm an advocate of persuasion politics. I'm an advocate of talking to the other side. I'm also an advocate of being fucking for real.
Realism?
Yeah. If you, I mean, you know, there are people you can't get through to. There are people who are just way too far gone. But try. If it fails, at least you know you tried. Just how do you do it? Very simply, state the facts. Insist upon the facts, and when they're pushed back on, bring the fucking receipts if you can. Just show very clearly what is happening. Explain how it is bad for you, for them, and for the people around you. Talk the language that people understand. Conservatives, Wilson had me watch this video yesterday and just explained very well how Bernie Sanders wins arguments. Talk the language of the other side. Conservatives are not interested in your lovey-dovey, oh, these people are suffering. No one cares.
conservatives don't anyway.
Nobody in Florida cares, okay? This is a Florida slander channel.
Love slandering voids. I mean, Florida.
Speak their language. They're not interested in people are suffering. They're not interested in don't you care, because no, they don't. Speak the language of national security, of institutions, of the Constitution of our great republic. Talk that language. Because A, it's not bad language, it's pretty damn good language, and B, it works. And, you know, when a Republican is very competent, he will do the same thing. Liberals don't care about authority. They don't care about tradition. So when a Republican comes at us talking about, you know, our great American traditions, our great Christian values, we don't care. We're not hearing them. We're not listening to them because it doesn't appeal to us in any way. But if a Republican comes in here and starts talking about protecting people's rights and being compassionate, that works. The mayor of San Diego, my hometown, was a Republican since not currently. His name was Kevin Faulconer. He's great, actually. He ran for governor in 2021, and if I was old enough to vote, I would have voted for him. He got like 8% of the vote. He was a great mayor as far as I know. He was mayor up until 2014 to 2020, 6 years. He was the mayor of San Diego, and he did a great job. He was very popular. And he talked our language. That is how he was able to exist in San Diego. I mean, San Diego was kind of a semi-Republican stronghold at the time, but like in 2014, on Wikipedia, there's a photo of him marching in the gay pride parade. He supports the, like, here's his list of issues, right? Positions on issues. He supports the use of capital punishment. He he's economically conservative. Where's his economic positions? He's vetoed a measure to increase the minimum wage, right? He is a Republican, but he speaks the language of Democrats, who are the majority in his area. He goes to pride parades. He condemns the killing of George Floyd. He supports, abortion rights. And that's how you win as a Republican, while still being a Republican. Or how you win as a Democrat, while still being a Democrat, in a majority Republican area. Speak their language. That's my answer. Frankie Mann, my lovely girlfriend, who apparently I don't know, is among many anonymous internet users, according to her. My question is, can you talk about the threat for college students with Trump cutting the education funding? No, I can't, because you kind of said it yourself. We had this, my friend Maya was talking about this on, I think, the first stream, the first to the second one, Fireside Chat, where she was talking about how her grant funding for the lab she works in was temporarily suspended when Trump froze all the federal grants. There's not a whole lot to talk about. I will say this, though. So they're very actively trying to abolish the Department of Education. They cut like half the staff this week. And they were going to abolish it, apparently, like this week. Or last week, last Thursday. But they didn't do it, and the theory I've seen expressed, which I think is probably the correct one, is they can't figure out how to abolish the Department of Education without at the same time forgiving all student debt, which of course they don't want to do because they like money. And their donors like money. And the student debt crisis may well be what saves the Department of Education. That's my only commentary on that.
Kind of depressing, but you take the dubs as you find them.
Screw it. We get the wins we can get. If there are no further questions, I'm going to call it here. The next stream is scheduled for March 25th. I don't think there's anything that should impair that right now. but I will make an announcement if that changes. Mark your calendars for the 5th one, which I'm sure will have plenty more bullshit to talk about. The video... I mean, I posted a community post yesterday. I won't repeat all of it today. If you haven't read it, go read it. The video will not be uploaded on March 15th, which is this Saturday. I wanted to because it's the Ides of March, and it would be funny because it's called Thus Always to Tyrants. But no such luck. I'm dealing with major copyright issues. But the video will be done. It will be uploaded on Patreon as soon as it is done in its final form. And then I'm going to fight with disputes and appeals on YouTube for as long as I can. And if I manage to win that way, then I will upload it uncensored on YouTube. If not, I will have to grit my teeth and butcher my own video and upload it on YouTube in its imperfect state. But that's the plan for the next month or two. There are plans for the next video after this, which I will discuss after this current one is done. Why March 25th? Because we are doing these every other Tuesday. Next Tuesday is the 18th, and the Tuesday after that is the 25th, so that is the next stream. Previous one was February 25th, Tuesday. It's been 2 weeks since then. So, speaking of, I have a Patreon. Those of you who have joined it in the last 24 hours, I thank you immensely. And those of you who haven't...
support him on Patreon. I beg of you.
Those of you who are... financially able to, please do. Those of you who are not, please don't. I do not want you to bankrupt yourselves. So, thank you very much. Hold the line until 2 weeks from now when we return.
Don't give up the ship.
Join the Discord server linked in the description of this stream and other places on my channel. Join the Patreon if you're financially able and feel so inclined. And I will see you all next time.
Have a good evening.
Like a good night.